Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of One on One with BroncoJuggalo. I am very honored and very pleased to announce that my next guest, my current guest, is the creator, writer, director, I believe editor as well, and also star, as in the guy that plays Jason, the guy that we care the most about in Never Hike Alone, Mr. Vincent Disanti.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
It's awesome to have you here. When I decided to start this internet segment, I've been thinking about doing it for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
The first two names I thought of is I have to get Vincent Disanti and I have to get David Howard Thornton. Those are the first
nice.
two people I thought of.
Yeah, I'm sure David could fill some time.
Yeah, I talked to him. I'm talking to him about hopefully getting an interview too. So
Great.
But I had to get you because talking to you for me is basically like talking to Wes Craven.
Come on.
I'm serious. I mean, like, because what you're doing right now with Never Hike Alone, and what people are doing with independent films, to me, is just as important, if not more important,
Mm-hmm.
than what the mainstream audience and the mainstream films are doing. I really feel that the independent horror is the next generation of horror, because we're the independent circle are the people that really care.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that they're not just out just for the money, obviously. They do passion projects, and it's what gets the mainstream stuff hooks people, but when they get into the independent stuff and they delve into it, that's where the true heart of it all really is. So to talk to somebody like you who has created, in my opinion, one of the best independent horror films ever made, and also definitely the best fan film ever made. Not to mention the quality of it. Your guys' quality always looks spectacular. It's just absolutely amazing to have you on. I'm so happy to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's funny because it's just like, most of the time we're making film. We don't really think about that. Like I don't think about Never Hike Alone really like, I don't know, like someone reacting to it that way a lot. I just kind of, I don't know. It's for me, it's like, I think when filmmakers look back and they look at their films, what they see is, I always say, it's kind of like looking at a yearbook. You remember all the days, you remember all the mistakes, you remember like what you wanted, what you got. And then, I think one thing that I've lacked over the last year is I really miss the convention circuit. I really miss going out and seeing fans react to it. And I think that that's like the greatest reward of being an independent filmmaker, is when somebody sits down to actually watch your movie and then engages with you about the story and they understand it. And you don't have anything but your film to represent yourself with. Like you said, like independent filmmakers, we're out here, on the street, going to conventions, going to film festivals, showing it to whoever we can convince to go into, like a backroom hallway in a convention hallway on like a projector screen, stereo speakers. And it's like, hey, you know what? If this is how someone's going to watch my film, that's how someone's going to watch my film. We all have that dream of being in the theater. And a few of us who, a lot of folks get into the, great festivals with great theaters and things like that, to have the theater experience, which is really, really nice. It's a reminder. I mean, it's a reminder like how your work can just go out and really get into the ether. And we never really expected that with Never Hike Alone. I mean, with most fan films, I mean, it doesn't really get that type of respect. Never really gets that type of accolation. It doesn't really get into into film festivals and things like that. So for us to kind of break a few of those molds along the way was a complete surprise to us. And I've just been trying to kind of like ride that wave in a way that's like, okay, this is cool. Like, it's kind of nice that like my love for Friday the 13th kind of turned into something that was such a staple of my personality that it became part of who I was as a creator. And I think that that's something that, as I continue to make films and make original projects and continue Never Hike Alone and diversify myself and do different things, I'll always have that like the stepping stone was my love for what made me love film, which was Friday the 13th. I fell in love with watching those movies every Friday night, having a chance to rent, an R-rated movie when I was like 10 years old. I mean, it was like the greatest thing. I was so glad that my parents just allowed me to watch whatever I wanted. I just dove into film. And I don't know. It didn't really warp me in any way that I became like a weirdo deviant going around wanting to murder people. I just was really interested in like the way movies were made. I got really interested in special effects. I wanted to know how this happened. How could they make it look so real? I was just so fascinated with that. And that's why I, pursued the process. And it's funny how the journey from being so impressed by something, trying to figure out how to make it, and then trying to make it so you can make somebody feel the way that you felt when you were a kid watching the movie. And I think that's really where Never Hike Alone came from. And I think that's why a lot of people respond to it. I was literally pouring my heart into the screen. I was saying, I love this franchise and I wish I could see more of this. And this is how I've always wanted it to be presented. Even though I have these limitations, like I'm going to get it as close as I can, because I just feel like the atmosphere and the feeling is there. And there's things that, like, even without a huge budget, that you can do with a character. And then when you do stumble upon those like beautiful things, like finding a camp and stuff like that, like that's the process of independent filmmaking. It's this journey. It's like being on a pirate ship with no map. And you kind of have a destination of where you want to go. You want to find the buried treasure somewhere, but you kind of really got to figure it out as you go. And you get better as you go along. And sometimes you take on water and you got to bail yourself out. But it's the process of, like, when you have a team that works together, no matter what kind of happens, you kind of persevere through it. So it's like all those things kind of build into a film. And it's, it's when you release it, you want people to react to it. And I think that, like, to hear you say those things, to hear other people say those things at convention circuits, it's like, I've definitely been missing that, because it's a reminder of why you do what you do. I mean, I do it for me, but then at the same time, it's like, when I'm doing it for me for so long, sometimes I feel selfish. It's like, dude, really, should I be doing this? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, what does anybody like, it's a real, like,
If you don't do it for you first, though, you're not going to get quality because you know what you want.
oh yeah. I mean, we have a standard of what we want, we have a standard of like what we want to create. But at the end of the day, we're not making a film just so me and 5 people can watch it in a room. We're making films so people will tune in from around the world and watch them. And, I've spent a lot of time, in this downtime, putting international subtitles on Never Hike in the Snow, because I'm getting requests from everywhere, and we're having volunteers from all over the world, do some stuff.
That explains why I haven't got my copy yet.
No, that's actually, oh my God, don't even get me started on that stuff. No, because that's the whole thing. Is we collected all these things, and they're ready to go. It's just the fact that, COVID has completely halted. Like, I just got the pins today.
Really?
Yeah, we ordered them 6 months ago, and the manufacturer was that far behind. It's been a real challenge. I mean, there was a challenge with some other stuff. I don't know. There was some shipping stuff that was going on before COVID, and then COVID hit. And then the way that, like, basically a bunch of production shut down. And so this company that we go through, they're really good, they are back ordered. So we're not really like the highest. They have big, like accounts that they go through, and we get like really professional discs made by them. So we kind of wait our turn. And they have limited staff. They're working limited hours. They can only have so many people on the floor at a time. They used to be able to employ like 3 or 4 more times the people that they have now. So they have to do like shifts of less people. And so they're trying to catch up. And so we're just basically waiting our turn. And then as soon as we can get them delivered, I can't wait to ship them, because they're going to come here. There's going to be a mountain of boxes behind me for weeks. And I'm going to try to shoot a couple boxes a day. You know what I mean? It's like, it takes a lot to package them, to ship them, to do all that stuff. I mean, we've gotten really good at it. So we're just like, that's the whole thing. We're like, we're ready. Like we're more ready to ship than we've ever been. And we're just like, we just need the disc.
I definitely understand. I have a friend who owns a record label, so he does his own merchandise. I have another friend. I have other friends that are directors. They do their own stuff, their discs and everything.
Yeah.
And then even myself, on a much smaller scale, not even close to comparing myself, I do merchandise as well, mostly through a third party. But there's a lot of times where I do the orders and I bring them in and then I put them out. So and it's funny because when you do that, you never break even. The shipping always kills you.
The shipping, yeah. I mean, that was one thing we really tried to like. There was one of the prices we raised this time around because we learned our lesson there, and it's one of the things we do. We heavily factor shipping into everything that we do now. So if you're gonna crowdfund, just don't underestimate shipping. Don't blow that off. Don't be like, hey, we should give everybody free shipping, because you will regret that.
Well, that kind of takes care of
$100,000.
one of my questions, because one of the questions, and it's a question that I honestly don't even want to ask, but I have to ask because it's
Go
just
ahead.
so relevant right now, is that how this COVID thing, obviously it's not just affected your production of your physical media and your things like that, but it's obvious it affects your filmmaking, it affects everything. So my question was going to be, how has that hindered you, or has it made it more challenging?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely more challenging. I think our company's position is that we don't want to make independent films that a quarter of our budget's going to go towards COVID testing and COVID protocols.
Mm,
Um, it doesn't feel like that's a wise move,
right.
because it's going to hinder quality of production. And I know, like, knowing how much we have to scrape to like get the things we do, and we want to stay at that level, I don't want to give that up. And, if I don't, I might be able to work with it eventually. I think, like, once we get it, like the vaccinations go through, and then we got a little bit more of a, it won't be as stringent, hopefully. If it is, that's when we're going to do it. But we're trying to wait as long as we can to say, like, okay, we know we can like go out there and be dedicated, and we don't have to worry about this stuff. We can just go out and shoot. And with the Never Hike Alone stuff, for doing that, I have, actors that are high risk. I have,
Mm,
crew that is high risk. And to ask them to do that, or to replace them, is just, it's a logistical nightmare. Plus I want to work with my friends.
you want to
So
work with the people you know, exactly.
I want to work with the people I know. And I just think it's just a smart thing to do. There's some
Mm,
other projects I'm working on, so I have some creative leeway that I can go in there. I'm working with the Jason Rising project. We got the Dylan's New Nightmare project to figure out. And then I've shifted my attention over to an animated film.
okay,
I'm working on my
that's
first.
that was going to be one of my questions as well.
Yeah.
What you got working on, what's coming up, that kind of thing. Because I watched Imagine,
Oh, thank you.
and it's a 3 minute thing, and at the end of 3 minutes, I'm like, wait, why is it over? Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there.
I,
Yeah.
I I loved it. It was so cool, and even the acting quality in that, from this one child,
Hmm.
three adult actors, and then whoever did the voiceover of the. I don't want to
Yeah.
give it all away for those that haven't seen it,
Yeah, I
but
know. Yeah, that was a fun short that we did with Brown Space Productions, I think in 2018.
and
And
it's a very cool concept.
mhm.
It's just the mind of a kid. Like
Yep.
what we all did back when we were younger with our GI Joes and our He-Man and everything else we had. Just on a horror level.
Yeah, no, we shot that in 2 days. It was like a really great, like, I think that's one of the things we're looking at. I think too, in this COVID era, is like, how can we make more imagines? You know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah.
can we make more projects like that? Or other short things that we've done, something that are really compact, just so we can keep it like really kind of like nitty gritty, and do those things and have a
Right.
little bit more fun. Not have to go as high budget. But but then with the animated project, we're trying to do something that I think is, my days in animation. I want to create something that's a little bit on par with that, and so we've been kind of working on that behind the scenes, and that's been kind of my focus while I've just been waiting for these discs. And
Right.
as I'm able to kind of wrangle a team from all over the country. And everybody
Mhm.
just has to work at their computer and send me the files, and I've been cutting them. And it's been a lot of fun doing it. I mean, I've been reconnecting with the editing with side of my brain, which I haven't done in a long time. Last thing I cut was like the behind the scenes of Never Hike Alone. So it's cool to actually cut something narrative, which is cool, not documentary style. And been having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and believe me, I don't ever think I'm anywhere near your level at all. But I'm actually writing a script myself, and
Mhm.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a chunk of each section of each part of the script to friends of mine in the horror community, and they're all going to film their own 5-10 minute segment.
Mm.
I'm going to put it all together to form the one movie. That
So
way,
you're
I
going to
get
make an
like this kind of
anthology.
weird, like animatrix kind of deal, But it's it's
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
really
yeah.
an anthology. It's going to be one linear story,
But
but
it's all
every
different
part of
animation.
it is going to be different. It's actually going to be live action, but it's all just going to be done by different film people.
Oh,
And
okay.
so It's just something for fun to kind of
Cool.
mess with, and it's like zero budget. Like I'm using Ketchup for Blood, zero budget.
Yeah, no, sometimes I mean that's the way you gotta do it. You gotta like then and
Yeah.
that's the fun part.
Yeah. The I wanted to thank you too, but before I get too far into things, before I forget, I don't know if you remember, but well before the physical stuff started coming out for Never Hike Alone, I emailed you and said, "Hey, I'm reviewing the movie.
Hmm.
Is there anything you could, send me for, to show on the thing, kind of a sneak peek for people?" And you sent me two things which I really love, and I actually framed them both. One was the advanced artwork for the DVD or for the Blu-ray,
Mm.
and that's actually at my friend Bill's house. I let him keep that one. He put it on his wall, and then I framed this that you sent me, the
Oh
autographed
yeah.
lithograph, and you know this is mine, and I
That's
kept this
cool.
one. So those are, and those are just so. I was so grateful to get those. I thought, like, I mean, I had literally just practically started my channel at that point,
Hmm.
and that made me feel like such hot shit.
Well, no, I mean, I was really, and I think, I've always been really appreciative of the YouTube community and streamers who tune into the film and do reviews on it, and have something to say. And a lot of them have become friends of mine, and I've seen people really reach out and go above and beyond. And so, like, I'm always like, hey, you know what? I got an extra beanie laying around, or let me see, what do I
Right.
got around here that I can just like send out? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, I mean, we make so much stuff, and I remember when I used to work on films, like back in the day when I was first getting started, there would be all this artwork and things around that like never got used. It would just get thrown in the trash. And sometimes we print stuff out. We take a look at things, and we're like, okay, that's cool. And now we'll print it bigger. So like the thing I sent you was probably like one of the tests of like the thing. I was like, hey, this
Yeah.
looks good. Like,
In fact, I've looked at the artwork from the one you sent me, the advanced artwork,
mhm,
and then compared it to this one,
mhm.
and they're different on the back.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I got something that's like really rare. That's just cool because I'm a person that collects things too. So
Mhm. Yeah, and I
you know,
remember that. I remember you saying that like you wanted to put it on the sleeve, and so I had a
mhm,
version of it that I sent that I think I printed out and kind of like measured out for you, and then yeah, because I was still working on the artwork for that stuff. It was
right.
funny. Yeah, there were different photos. I think probably some spelling errors. Probably still are some spelling errors. So bad.
Love the red case, by the way.
Thank
Very
you. Yeah,
awesome.
that was something I discovered along the way. We were originally going to do the black case, but I ran into a lot of trouble because the only thing that's in black case is 4K. They're like, "Do you want 4K on
Right.
the cover?" And I was kind of like, it's kind of, it's going to confuse people. And then
Oh,
because they're going to ask about it, I'm going to have to explain, and then they're not going to believe me.
right.
So then I was like, I can't remember what movie I saw, but it had a red case, and I went, "How about red cases? Can you find those?" And they
Mhm,
found like a whole bunch of them, and they bought them
right.
for me. And they had to hold on to them for months because it took months to build the Blu-ray. It was funny.
Yeah, I actually got the other one as well. I picked up this one, and
Yeah.
I actually went and bought four more copies of this and gave them to friends that couldn't get them at the time
Oh,
because and that missed out on the first round.
mm,
So I made sure that the word got spread on that, and I tell
yeah,
everybody to
that's
go watch the movie. I mean, I turned my boss onto it.
cool.
I turned so many people onto the movie. No, I mean we love it. And I'm gonna lead you with my first actual official question because I haven't even asked you into my
Oh
question.
yeah, we've just been shooting the shit.
So all right, I have to ask this because you know as well as I do. You're a Friday the 13th fan. You're a fanatic like I am. I'm personally, honestly, I'm more of a Halloween guy, but just
All
saying.
right, all right.
But anyway, Friday the 13th. You know that there's now another lawsuit going on
Hmm.
with Sean Cunningham versus WB and Paramount for
Hmm.
whatever. And I guess I can understand why he would do that. I understand it from a filmmaking standpoint. But as far as the fans go, and as far as we all go, we want more Friday the 13th. So until we get original Friday the 13th, and even once we do, we have you out there pulling, in my opinion. I don't know if you watched any of my videos covering your movies, the Friday the 13th franchise. When I did my Friday the 13th ranking, I included your movie in the franchise.
How do we do?
You were at that point in time, you were in the top half,
All right, that's
and I literally have told people over and over again that this movie is better than over half the franchise. I mean, it just is. It's a better film. I mean, 7 to me is completely boring, totally forgettable. 8 is I used to hate it. Now it's grown on me. I have a lot of fun with it. So on and so forth. So I have to ask this question before I go too far into my own mind. Are you Miller or are you Cunningham? Or do you just like me want them to get it done and over with and shut up? But I will have to be honest, I'm slightly Cunningham because personally I don't think Miller has a leg to stand on. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to, and this is where like the heart of my Friday the 13th, like if I could wish anything, I wish these guys would get in a room and rekindle their friendship and figure it out. Because every Friday the 13th fan who has watched a behind the scenes knows the story about how Friday the 13th was made. We all know that it was Sean driving the engine and that he hired Victor to write the script. I mean, it's in the story. They've all admitted to it on camera multiple times. And so that's why I kind of laughed when it first came out. I'm like, there's tons of evidence that say that like Miller's like, hey, yeah, he came out and he said, hey, write this for me. And I wrote it for him. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't as if Victor had gone off and wrote something and came to Sean. He's like, Sean, I need you to believe in me and buy the script off me. And so I think it very well much could come down to the fact that like Sean lost the paperwork. The paperwork, there's some contract somewhere that says Victor do it, but because they can't process this, that's the way it is. However, so that's what I think is probably the somewhere in the truth of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he really did do that. But either way, I think that they should split it 50-50 still because of what they needed each other. Because at the end of the day, Sean didn't write that script. And a lot of the characters that came out of that were from Victor's brain. And, as Sean deserves all the credit for putting the ad in Variety, for raising the money, for directing the film, for getting it through post-production, to getting it distribution and getting it out there and taking a chance on this and literally taking somebody's $750,000 that they were going to put on a strip mall and make them $60 million, is a big deal. And without, I mean, because if you want to get into the semantics, let's talk about Steve Miner and how Steve Miner was the one who created the phenomenon that created the franchise, which is the Part 3 Jason.
And that's kind of where I am with Victor Miller is that he wrote the story. He wrote, Pamela. Pamela was the bad guy, not Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Jason was a little kid that died in the first one, or depending on your point of view, and so he never wrote adult Jason. He didn't have really anything to do with it except that it was based on his character.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, he got a royalty based off of that. And I mean, I'm sure he ain't hurting for food.
Well, no, I mean, I think he basically, it comes down to this is that like Victor went on to have a very successful career, became a daytime soap writer, and he did other things and he won Grammys. He won Grammys because he was an awesome musician. No, he won some Emmys. And he's got a great family and, he seems to be doing well for himself, living up in Northern California. He's got a friggin' awesome tattoo sleeves. Seems like a chill dude. But I think
he's a cool guy. I like him.
But I think what happened is that like back in the day, him and Sean were like thick as thieves. They were writing all those movies. They wrote Here Come the Tigers, and they didn't work on Last House on the Left, but like they were still like collaborating.
I've watched a few documentaries where it talks about him, Sean, and Wes, because Wes was the one that brought them kind of together, and also that Wes was one of the people that helped him drive to put Friday the 13th up and helped him get some of the money together for it.
Yeah, Wes is amazing. And it's like, I mean, if there's like, I mean, not that I don't think that Wes is underrated, but I think that like, as I've started to like kind of do my research on Wes because of the Dylan's New Nightmare project, I'm starting to discover way more things about him that I didn't even know. Because I knew about the surface thing. Like I knew him by his movies. You know what I mean? I never researched who the guy was. I didn't watch the behind the scenes of Nightmare on Elm Street the same way I watched Friday the 13th and got to know all the Friday the 13th people. So now that I'm digging under the surface of Nightmare on Elm Street, I think that like if I could pick one person to like spend time with and spend like an entire afternoon with, it'd probably be Wes Craven, because he seems to be the type of person that like on so many different levels, not only from a filmmaker but just from a human being level, that I feel like he would probably give the most grounded advice for how to, deal with filmmaking, being a director and things like that. I think that'd be really cool. But getting back to Steven, to Sean and Victor, I think at the end of the day, it's they needed each other to get it done. And Victor sees that Sean has a very, his family set. Friday the 13th set them for life. His family is his kids, the lineage, as long as it goes. And I think Victor wants a piece of that. And I think Victor earned it. You know what I mean? Like, to a certain degree. And, Steve Miner went off and made a bunch of other had a fine directing career. So he made his money. And, the Mancusos who really ran the films that really hooked the rest of us, they're fine.
Frank Mancuso. I mean, yeah, that's the true driving force. Every time Paramount wanted to shut down the franchise, there was the Mancusos like, no. And then
going back to the well.
So this made money. Okay, all right, it made money. No, part 4, we're killing it though. Come on.
It's funny, it's again, it's like this Brady Belichick debate. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's talking about Brady and Belichick, and no one's talking about all the other pieces in between of the other people that contributed to every single championship that guy won. Same thing with Friday the 13th. What's Friday the 13th without Kane Hodder? What's Friday the 13th without Tom McLaughlin and Joe Zito?
I think it would be better without Kane Hodder, but that's just me.
No, you gotta love Kane. I mean, but not only even if you don't like Kane's movies, like 7 through Goes to Hell don't go high on my list, although I do have a soft spot for 8 like you do. Kane
X is actually in my top 3.
Yeah.
X I love, but it's not.
Yeah.
To me, that's like Kane's best performance. I mean, he's still the only breathing zombie I've ever seen.
That is true. But with Kane, I think it goes beyond just what he did in the screen. It's what he does off the screen. It's that every time you go to a convention, when you see Kane's table, it's got a line out the door, and he talks to everybody, and he gives everybody time. And he's a good guy, and he takes care of people. And I've had the opportunity to work with him and get to know him just a little bit. I got how many Friday the 13th? Is that a
spoiler? Is that something coming up? Are we going to see Kane Hodder in the next film?
I think that I can talk about it in a second, but I got to do some work on 13 Fanboy for Deborah Voorhees, which is a big anticipated film. I did some of the stunts for the film. I got to go in and double, and jump off balconies and do fight scenes and things like that. So it was a lot of fun.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, I got to do some stuff with Kane Hodder, and it was really exciting, and I learned a lot. But we got to spend some time off the side of the set, and we had we just enjoyed the New Mexico skyline, and talked a little bit about movies, and it was a cool experience.
So you're telling me you were right here in my backyard and you didn't come say hi?
Wait, you're in New Mexico? You're in Ruidoso?
I'm in New Mexico.
What part?
Yes, sir. Right by Albuquerque.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're in and out of Albuquerque. The only airport that every time I go to it, there's a delay. You guys get so many bomb scares; it's hilarious. I'm like, who?
I have a friend that works at the
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I have a friend that works there. Well, Albuquerque. I don't want to get all into it, but Albuquerque is a big target because we have Sandia National Labs, the Los Alamos Missile Range, the Los Alamos Labs, and the White Sands Missile Range.
Well, now I know.
So that's why I know
what it is. Oh, okay. I was like, what is it about this place?
Yeah. So there, into my next question there for you. Real quick, guys. At the end of the interview, guys, I'm going to open up. I see some of you fired off some questions. I'm not even sure if Vince can see them.
No. Where would I?
So
I guess
they're firing off questions because we have a live chat going while we're talking. So at the end of the interview, I will open it up for some questions for you guys, and I'll feed them over to Vince, and he can answer your questions. So hold on to your questions. I promise we will get to them. As long as they're, not stupid.
I'll answer dumb questions. I don't care.
Well, I get what I meant by not stupid, I guess, is not trolls being idiots.
Well, let them be trolls.
Yeah. So with the fact that you worked on, like you said, some stunt work, things like that as well, aside from your own experiences playing Jason, playing Michael Myers, which I thought you did a great job in that movie too.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't think it was as good as Never Hike Alone, but I did enjoy it a lot.
Well, I mean, I think
Um,
like for every Michael fan film I've done, which I've done 3 now, every one of them
mhm,
has been like a no budget affair. So it's like I always
yeah,
tell people like you got to temper expectations because Never Hike Alone is like a year-long process, and then this is Jimmy and and Cortland literally coming up with a
yeah,
concept over a weekend and then shooting it the next weekend, which is
yeah.
like an amazing
And
feat.
that's independent filmmaking.
Yeah,
That's why a lot of your bigger YouTubers, and I'm not going to name drop them because
they get
whatever, but a
enough.
lot of your bigger horror YouTubers, they don't cover the independent stuff because honestly, it doesn't get them views because nobody knows what they're talking about. But
That's
it's where I feel, and I've told them but this before, people that I'm friends with that are bigger film YouTubers in the horror world. My friends, I've told them, you need to do these films. You did Never Hike Alone, but Never Hike Alone is getting this massive, attention. But you guys have the audiences to get these other filmmakers that
Yeah.
attention.
I really wish it would
You
open the
know,
door for some of the other, some of the other filmmakers that are out there that are creating independent stuff. Like
I
Jason
think it.
Schink was
I
great
think
at
it has.
Dagger.
I have a friend.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh no, no, I
We
was saying
had
go
a
ahead.
quick delay, and I didn't realize you were talking.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying go ahead. Go ahead.
Um,
You're saying your
we.
friend
I
has
have
a
a
movie?
friend. My friend Dave McDonough. He's the director of Groundhog,
Oh,
which he
cool.
made for $7,000.
There you go.
From he's with not Wamstar. He's with Boombastic Films out of Massachusetts,
Oh, cool. Yeah,
and
that's where I'm originally from.
yeah, he did an awesome original slasher called Groundhog.
Hmm.
He actually got it into a theater there, so he's had his theater release. But if some of our other YouTubers that are bigger than say myself, because I'm only 1,100 viewers or
Mm-hmm.
1,100 subs, if some of these guys that are 70, 80,000 subs will start covering more of this independent stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it'll spread the word, and that'll just make everybody's life better.
Well, I think it's really about kind of getting more people aware of the independent world, realizing that a lot of the films that they like are people that came out of this community. So, yeah, I mean, I always try to like recommend people anytime I can. I know I'm always kind of throwing stuff at people. So, yeah, do more
So
independent films.
which
Go ahead.
which one was harder for you? Is it harder to play Jason or Michael, respectively, or is it harder to direct?
It's a lot harder to direct. Jason or Michael, you're just focusing on one thing. When you're directing, you're focusing on everything. And when in our projects, like some of the corners that we cut, like I don't have a first AD. Like I'm my own first AD on set. I direct and I first AD, so I'm like out of control. And I have to like it's really stressful for me because I have to get not only do I have to think creatively, I have to think logistically. So my brain is battling all day. And so it's really about like, okay, I want to get this shot. And the creative side of me wants to do 15 takes. But the logistical side of me is like, we got to move on. Like you got to get all your shots. What's more important is that we get all of our shots. If we go away from here and we don't get all of our shots, especially with Never Hike in the Snow, there's no pickups. We'll never get a pickup because there's no way to reassemble what we assembled out here. This is so much like it was just like there's so much money being spent right now just to get these setups.
Mm-hmm.
We won't be able to come back to the well on this. We really have to be like cautious about not going on. So we have to be like more concise in there. So it's really hard to really kind of like narrow down the laser focus to do that. When I'm in the Jason costume, and it's twice as hard when I'm in Jason costume and directing. It's almost impossible. It's a lot of work. It's why I share the role with Brian Forrest. He comes in, does stunts for me, does hired, like when we have big camera moves or things on cranes, it's like Brian, get in that costume because we need to get this out. So we trade back on and off. And then, with Michael, it's usually I'm in someone else's film, and that's my favorite. Like, I think I have so much fun playing Michael because I know I'm on a set where I don't have to do anything but be Michael. And I just go to that place and I just embody the shape and I just do what I can. And I try to give the best performance and try to really kind of think about how I think Myers would move, how my Myers would move, and deliver that and have some fun with it. And, I think with the Cortland's film, I was really happy because I did 2 films and I didn't kill anybody. Imagine that. But then with this one, I really got to be brutal and come up with some kill sequences. So I think that was probably the most fun, even though it was a brutal shooting experience, because we were shooting like basically like Cortland shooting hours were between midnight and 4 a.m. because they would just be setting up all night, and I'd just be in the Myers costume like, what's going on, guys? They'd be like, okay, we're almost ready. And so we would just start shooting at like midnight, and they're all young, like they're all 21, you know what I mean? Like 21.
Right.
So they're running around, they're up all night. And I'm like, guys, I'm an old man. Look, I'm going to need to go sit down for a while. Like,
you're closer to my age than their age, I think.
yeah, I mean, I turned 37 last October. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up there. Like, I'm just a big kid, I guess. But, you know, it was just, you know, it was, for me, it's like once it's go time, it's just so much fun to like, I love acting. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a cool challenge. There's no technical side to it. It's just all you. You're not relying on a camera. You're not relying on a rig. Like, I can't tell you how many times I have heart attacks because the signal doesn't go to the thing and I can't see the image. And it's like, you know, oh, I can't, blah, blah, blah. All these things are keeping me from doing what I need to do, rather than like being able to be out there and be like, this is my goal. This is what I can achieve as an actor. Let me go out and do that. So it's really fun. Like when you have, you know, it's just like, it's like dancing in a way. It's like you have your moves, you know, you do your thing and you go. At the end of it, you just leave a bloody mess.
Yeah. So are you more critical on yourself as an actor when you go back and watch your dailies or your stuff and you're like, man, I should have been better there than say you are on like Andrew or whoever your lead is? Are you more critical of yourself than them, or?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was really critical of the Jason stuff. With the Michael stuff, I just try to be instinctual, and if I do it well enough for me, I'm kind of happy. You know, if I do it well enough for the director, that's even better. And you know, because it's kind of like this is what I think is good, and you know, I pick up things. You know, you pick up mistakes, and I think for me, it's I understand. I think with acting, I'm a little bit more forgivable because I realize that I don't have like professional training, and everything I'm doing is a little bit instinctual and is picking up nuggets from other actors, and it's being in some acting classes and like doing that stuff, but not being like a lifelong trained actor. I think it was one of those things where I was like, listen, I just have a knack for being on camera, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'd like to give it a shot. And when I get a chance to do it, it's this really kind of focused challenge, I think, for me, rather than just the web of knowledge that I need to be a director and like really focus everything into to make sure I walk home, because then I walk away with, you know, I feel so responsible for everything. When you're an actor, you just feel responsible for, you know, what you can control. Or when you're kind of just one person on the crew, you're only responsible for what you can control. Nobody carries the weight of a film like a director does, because they're the one that when it goes well, they get to ride the wave, and when it goes poorly, they get thrown under the bus. And so,
Mhm.
you know, so it's really you at the end of the day, especially, you know, and for me, it's like I'm a producer, director, you know, writer, and actor in it. And so it's really, I think for the Never Hike stuff, it takes a toll on me. I know that. I mean, I feel pressure on all sides to do everything well.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think it really just comes down to, yeah, definitely acting is a lot more fun than, than directing, but I love directing because it's the bigger challenge, I think.
I always wanted to be a director. I've learned long ago that I probably didn't have the talent for it.
I mean, I think it just really comes down to leadership. It comes down to leadership, communication, and having a vision and knowing where you want to go and where you want to send people. And if you can pick a target, then it's just about communicating with the rest of your crew. I think anybody can be a director if they learn to communicate, because we all have
Mhm.
stories inside of us. We all have stories to tell. And I think that a lot of us will probably have to become better storytellers, but directing is just, it's kind of the embodiment of it. It's like once you understand the fundamentals of storytelling, when that story comes to you, you know how to articulate it and then like kind of put the pieces together. And I think that that's like the great challenge of being a filmmaker, is understanding the language of film, understanding the language of a visual medium, and then, you know, painting with it. You know, this is our brush. You know, like every shot is a brush stroke, and every line of dialogue is another like layer of it.
Mhm.
And it's, you know, it's a challenge because it's like, you know, painting the frame, as they say. It's, you know, we're painting frames in our head for so long, and then we have to create it in life, and we have to create so much magic on screen, which like when you look at it in real life, it looks dull, but when you look at it in a lens, it comes to life. And so I think that that's really like this, as a storyteller, anybody who wants to do anything with film, that's like what we chase. We chase for that magic that we see in the lens and try to put that up on the screen for people to enjoy.
And, one of the things that I love so much about Never Hike Alone is the shots. And I love the scope. I love those huge, wide opening shots of the mountains and things like that. The pull away shot at the end when the ambulance is leaving and Jason's walking behind it,
Yeah.
all of that. And I'm assuming it was, at first, the first thought, of course, went helicopter, but I'm assuming it was drones.
Yeah. And think about that. I mean, how many years ago were drones non-existent? No independent filmmaker could get those
Mm-hmm.
shots.
Yeah.
And I think when we started using drones, I think the drones were pretty popular at that point with a lot of films. But I think on the level that I was at, where I was playing, because I was a filmmaker that didn't really have a film up and stuff that I had seen, I kind of saw how drones could be misused. And so with Never Hike Alone, I wanted to really explore and take the challenge of like, how do we shoot this with a drone, but make it feel like it was shot with a helicopter? And,
You guys did amazing.
So we really tried to study that type of filmmaking along with when we used it in other standpoints where we didn't have the money for a 40-foot crane or techno crane that we could get up there, but the drone could at least do some stuff. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a mixture of the two. And I love it. I love shooting with the drone. I love creating that atmosphere and the texture of the forest, and just seeing the emptiness of the space. And that was the whole point of the opening scene, was to like, we were saying this guy's you should never hike alone, but let me show you how alone this guy is. There's nothing out here but him and his truck. You don't even see another car pass him. And that was purposeful. We wanted to make him the only person out there, which was, which leads into the theme of isolation and all these different things that add to the story.
Which definitely makes you wonder, it's so funny because he's basically, his subject was hiking. Mine is sitting on the couch watching horror movies. But he was basically doing what we do. He was being a YouTuber, so to speak, without using YouTube, the name, and
smash that like button.
Yeah, smash that like button.
I just wish I would have put that in the script.
And I love that scene where he's in his tent and he's doing the tool because he's being sponsored to do this tool, and he's like, man, this is a piece of crap, and he's going over how do I say this? Because that's stuff that we do, a lot of our stuff that I do like live and all, but when I do a video or stuff, I've got notes or, things that I want to do or things I want to say certain ways, or I do like little skits and things just because I have fun. And, we all go through that prep stage, So, well, most of us do. Some people just get on and say what they want and that's it, but, I loved how relatable it was. I love everything about that movie, even the found footage stuff. And I hate found footage. I thought you guys did it well. You did it to where it didn't give me a headache.
Yeah, that was a big key because I don't like found footage most of the time. Like found footage, I feel like is one of those. It can go wrong so easy, and it's really hard to hold my attention in those things because I'm such a lover of cinematography, and that's part of the reasons why I watch film is I want to see cool camera angles and cool camera tricks. And I started to look at stuff like The Martian and 127 Hours, and then even As Above, So Below. Those are, As Above, So Below is a traditional found footage film, but I like what they did with that when they cheated with the headlamps with the cameras, which was great because it gave you different points of view and you could cut around, and they were actually using it to create good symmetrical shots and like really kind of play with that. So when we were talking to Andrew about the found footage aspect of it, it wasn't, oh, just walk with it and do stuff. It was, we're going to teach you how to be your own cameraman. We're going to put you in a position to make you look good on screen. So every time you're on screen on this GoPro, you look professional, and you feel like you're being shot by someone else almost.
And so using the GoPro with because it's got the body attachment. When he was doing the stuff where he's hiking, like what did he call it? What did he call it? like Uber hiking or fast hiking or running or whatever.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know
yeah.
what he called it in the movie.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I think
where
he's just
I mean,
running.
he's going really fast through these mountains. I mean, and he's got that camera on there, and he's getting this great like first person view shots.
Mm-hmm.
It looked really good. It really did. As Above, So Below is actually one of only two full out found footage movies I like. That's one of only two that I actually like.
I think there's a theme here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a found footage person. The other one is a brand new one I just saw. It's an independent film called Cold Ground,
Oh, cool.
which is an amazing film. It's absolutely amazing. So I have to ask you, your version of Jason. If you let's put you in your head of playing Jason, your version. If you were in the main franchise, anywhere you want to be, who is it that you're killing?
Oh, like who would be my
Like,
choice?
who would be your choice of victims out of the main franchise?
Oh, um, who would be a good victim? You know what? Because he didn't get it, and because he's in my film, I'm gonna say Rick Cologne because he didn't get his comeuppance, and he's still kicking around. So I think we're gonna have to do something about that in our series.
I think we might, because I'm telling you, if he says that line one more time,
You bang?
yes.
Oh
And
yeah,
6 has been my favorite since I was a kid. So
yeah. Now we're gonna have some fun with Rick. He's up to something. You know what I mean? He thinks he's got something figured out, and that's what I love about Rick is that Rick is so stubborn and he's so thick-headed that like it's helping Jason in a way. It's like he doesn't realize how much damage he's causing, but he thinks he's doing something good, and in a way, he kind of is. It's like the lesser of two evils in a way that in his mind. And I think as we
right.
start to kind of expand on the story and we get to know these characters a little bit better, we're going to see that there's a little bit of justification in the actions that everyone takes. It's like those are the greatest stories, right? When, everyone's the hero in their own story. And Rick is very much the hero in his own story, and he really believes in what he's doing. When you actually hear him say it out loud, it's just I didn't want to do two of the same scenes. I didn't want to put that scene in Never Hike in the Snow and then do it in Never Hike Alone because it's in like the first scene of Never Hike Again. No, so we were like, let's just play this one out. I mean, let's just see who arises as the people with the POV, and that was where we were always supposed to go, and we filled in some more space with it, but. For us, it was just kind of setting the mood of like what life in Crystal Lake is like. So when we get to this Never Hike series and we get to, Never Hike Again, and then Jason Takes Crystal Lake, the story that unfolds like really mostly in those two segments is the longing rivalry of Rick and Tommy. What Rick believes, what Tommy believes, where Diana, the mother, still is, still in town, kind of still dealing with it 3 months later. Basically giving up hope that she'll ever see her son again, even his body. And that, all these people are kind of like existing in the same world, all kind of affected by the same thing. And it isn't until Kyle MacLeod comes in like a comet and blows the whole thing out of the water and sets all these events in motion. And that's like the great part about it is like, because I love Andrew so much. And it kind of broke my heart to kind of like, I thought I was going to get to work with him like this spring and kind of do that stuff. And we obviously got left behind. But I think he's such a great character and I can't wait for him to kind of come in because I feel like Kyle MacLeod is like the Marty McFly of the Friday the 13th world. He's just going to like, it's almost like Marty McFly crashing into 1985. I mean,
he's the only one that really gave it to Jason.
Yeah. And I think that like, yeah.
Like,
and now we're going to see I think we're going to see different sides of Drew, but it's, him kind of crashing into the Friday the 13th world and kind of crashing the party with other characters that kind of still exist there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And when they all kind of get mixed up in this story, there's a lot that's going to unfold. And like, I think if anyone's caught wind of what we're trying to do with our series, it's like, we're trying to leave a little bit of that Friday the 13th camp behind. We have a little bit of it still. I mean, we still want to pay. We still want to give it its credence because we know that Friday the 13th really can't be like the most serious of all things.
Right.
But we are trying to ride that line of being like, no, let's play this one straight. Let's take it seriously. You know what I mean? Let's tell a good story, and let's build emotional characters. Let's have an emotional ending.
See, and I love that so much. And you guys do such a great job giving the props and the salutes to the franchise. I mean, the red tags. I love that. At first, I was like, "Wait, what is?" Then I was like, "Wait a minute, I know what that is. I know why that's there. You know why that rope is hanging there and there's a tag. But like you said, you are making a more serious story, which, in my opinion, I believe like that the remake did as well. And they did keep some of the camp, a little bit of the, you have to keep some of it. You have to keep some of the
jammed
stuff.
a lot of it in.
I really enjoyed that movie. I love that movie. I
want to be on your parade. Don't worry about it.
No, believe me. Remember when you were? I don't remember. You remember you were on James Grimm?
Yeah, we were talking about it,
and we started talking about it in the chat. And I've been like, man, I want him just on my channel so we can talk about that. We can talk about that for all night,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, I think that like you're trying to get to, or I mean, I think what you're getting to is that there are different slices of pizza for Friday the 13th. And like the serious drama of Friday the 13th that we're trying to create, like that's not going to be for everybody. Some people just want the fun. They want what Friday the 13th, 2009 has, which is like simplified story, stupid characters, doing dumb shit and getting murdered big time by a cool actor who's gigantic and muscly, and who better than Derek Mears? And Derek Mears does a great job in that film.
I think he's a great JC. He's my favorite. And then there's Graham, and then there's you.
Oh, well, that's a pretty cool list. But I think where I departed as a fan was the fact that they came so close to being able to tell a really like serious story with some good, with like it had good motivations. It had all these different things, but there was just something that was like it didn't quite reach the storytelling I thought it was going to get to. I didn't quite see the things in Camp Crystal Lake that I wanted to see. And then there were certain elements of it that I was kind of like, if you really think about it, like, and so I think what I wanted to do is like, can we like, and I watched all the Friday the 13th up into that. And I always used to ask those questions, like, how could they get away with this, blah, 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 and ask those things. And I still love the films, but I started to ask like, how do they get away with that in a film?
They're not exactly, Oscar-winning scripts.
Yeah, and I think that, it was a lot of those things, and it was the strive of like, imagine if they didn't just leave like hanging plot holes and like odd continuity errors, and they actually tried. You know what I mean? Like, can someone like all I ever wanted from a Friday the 13th filmmaker was to try. That's why I love Joe Zito. That's why I love Tom McLaughlin. And I think that for the most part, if you look down the line of Friday the 13th directors, some of them, like John Carl Buechler tried his ass off. He had a really kind of
he got screwed by the MPAA. That's what made that film, and to me, that's what makes the film so boring. Is it just
it's got this great costume and it doesn't have the payoff of like the kills. It kind of has the odd Carrie. Maybe it meant more back in 1987 when like Carrie was a thing. But I mean, how long had it been since Carrie? You know what I mean? Like Carrie was prior to the first Friday the 13th. They stole the Carrie ending for Friday the 13th. So it's kind of, it was the first kind of gimmick that they tried. And then the gimmick was send him to New York. And Rob Heiden had this big idea, and he had to shave it down and shave it down and shave it down until it was on a boat in Vancouver. And, so then it got taken over by that. And then, Jason Goes to Hell. They get this young director to come in. Sean tells them to get the mask off him or get rid of the mask. They come up with this crazy idea. And then like at this point, we're spinning so far out of control that no one knows what's up or down in the Friday the 13th world anymore. And
they were trying to introduce all the Evil Dead concepts and
then they sent him to space, and then he fought Freddy. And
so there's a question I got to ask you too. Are we ever going to see Never Hike in Space?
I would love to.
I would love to see it.
I would totally write that in.
Just a dream. It could be a dream. Even Jason has a dream that he's floating out in
No,
space.
I will
killing
make sure that it comes to like I will literally bend space and time to make Never Hike Alone eventually just be one of the stops before Jason X. Like
That's
basically we're
awesome.
taking between part 8 and Jason X, and we're just gonna get rid of everything in between.
I
But
still want to see a sequel to Jason X. I mean, that's just me.
Jason X too. I've been lobbying for that, and I want to see a prequel to Jason X. You know what I mean? Like how they capture him.
Yeah.
I want to see the capture crew that captured. That's what we wanted out of Friday the 13th. Jason Goes to Hell was we didn't want to see him get blown up. We wanted to see him get captured.
Yeah.
That's the movie I want.
The first 10 minutes of that film is the only thing I can enjoy.
Oh, Jason Goes to Hell? Or Jason?
I hate that movie.
I've learned to appreciate it through the fans. I appreciate it through the fans of Jason Goes to Hell because I understand now why they like it, and so I try to watch it from that perspective when I watch it, and I don't go because here's my thing. My longing as a Friday the 13th fan is the closure we never got out of the Paramount series to say this would be the final movie. This would be the final moment. This would be the way that the problem of the curse of Camp Crystal Lake is solved. And I'm not saying that there's ever a way to really solve the Crystal Lake problem, but I don't know. We all wanted to see Tommy come back. We got that notion at the end of the film that like Jason still wasn't dead. He came back twice after that. How would this story go on? And the story just kind of went off somewhere else and they restarted. And then with 2009, I was like hoping to be like, okay, now they're going to go back and really think about it. Be like, okay, now that we're going to have to build a new franchise, let's make sure we have the things in place so we can build upon it. And when I watched that film, and I think what was lacking for me, I was like, where's the world building here? I feel like this film only stands on itself. If it goes on from here, where does it go? And if it does, it's just going to jump a bunch of logic errors and you're going to have to dismiss a bunch of things. And then Friday the 13th just becomes what it was. Maybe that's fine for some people, but I always wanted to see Friday the 13th try a little harder. And that's where the Never Hike Alone storyline comes in. It's really taking everything from the Friday the 13th world and saying, all right, let's play it straight. Let's not hinder on too many things, but let's really put it in a world where you feel like it could have happened. And a world of like, we use this word, this phrase called the appearance of reality. And I think that if you can create a good appearance of reality within a film, you'll get away with some of the magical things that you can do. Like the way we make Ghost Jason suddenly disappear when somebody turns around. It's like, could that happen in real life? Probably not. But in a film, you can do that. And as long as you ride that line, that's where you find your entertainment value. You ride that appearance of reality and do that, but you keep it grounded. And I think that's kind of like the fun thing. And as we sort of will unveil more things about the film as it goes on, it's going to gradually build towards it. But we want to try and do those things along the way that like Friday the 13th fans have always wanted to see and create those scenarios. So like in Never Hike in the Snow, a scenario. Have you ever seen Jason arrested before? Have you ever seen someone try to put cuffs on Jason, try to like give him his Miranda rights? And so like we were like, this is going to be a great scene because we're going to see a cop try to arrest Jason. Okay, let's put a cop in the room with him. Let's say, hey, call the cops. You know what I mean? Like what would happen? We kind of saw that in part 6, but what happens now? What happens when it's one-on-one and the guy actually has the drop on him? It's kind of it was a really cool like situation. I was like, let's create a sequence that no one ever thought before. Taking the POV, the thing that we couldn't really do in Never Hike Alone, which was like have him, reveal Jason in the way that we revealed him this way. So it was another opportunity to use that POV in a way that was like, this is a way that I would want Jason to be revealed in like another POV movie. And, it was cool to kind of come back and play with those concepts now that I've had a chance to mess with found footage as I've been going on.
Right. So with your Jason, obviously, Never Hike Alone is set within the universe somewhere after part 6 because obviously we have, Tom Matthews playing Tommy Jarvis. We now have Rick in, so it's obviously set somewhere after part 6. If you could let's just go into the future here and the lawsuits are done. They're getting back to making Friday the 13th films. I don't think you've ever noticed. You probably haven't. But whenever I talk about Friday the 13th, the future of the franchise, I have literally said I want Vincent Disanti to direct the next Friday the 13th film.
I would love to.
And I want Derek Mears to play Jason.
I would love to have Derek.
So I've lobbied for that so much. So my question to you is, you get to make the next Friday the 13th. Where are you putting it? Where do you want it? Are we remaking? Are we pulling a Halloween 2018? What are we doing?
We are starting from scratch.
Total remake.
Building a world that, when all is said and done, it's a 3-story arc. It starts at the beginning and it just shuffles a couple of facts around, and it makes things make a little bit more sense. It kind of, the only thing I'll say is it goes against how I feel the current version of Jason is. Like, I feel like this current Jason is a revenant, and it's the only way it makes sense. It's the only way this Jason makes sense. And that was one of the departure things for me in 2009, is that they treated him as human, but he's a revenant at the end because he did not die. And it's got to choose one lane. You know what I mean? And I feel like Never Hike Alone, the story that I'm telling, that's the story of the revenant. My remake would be the story of the boy who survived, and it would make a little bit more sense. And it would all come together in a way that I think that, it would echo the original Friday the 13th. It would change a couple of details around. But at the end of the day, there's a storyline within each entry that is a unique Jason tale, but I think brings out the best of the parts that people love in, like, parts 3 and 4. So it's like, I love parts 3 and 4 and 2, and I also love part 6. And so Never Hike Alone is really my ode to 6 and everything that is, undead Jason and revenant Jason based, and kind of that version of him. But I've also had this great story of him, of like, because I used to be a really big fan of, like, I always thought Jason was like, he was human until then, and then he turned into an undead, killing machine at this point. And then the more I peeled back the onions, I realized that, like, wait, the way this is constructed, the only way that the film would work is if it worked like this way, if he was a revenant, and this would make sense, and why this works, and blah, blah, blah. And I put it all back together. But, I think
I did the same thing with Halloween. I put my own version of how all the original films like worked together, and I took this piece and that piece, and like this section of the film and this little thing you see in the background, and this is how it all works together to make these original 8 films work.
But this Jason would have, the thing I love about this story is I love this Jason. And that's why even though I departed from non-revenant style for things that I wanted to do, it really kind of, when I started to think about, like, okay, then they're coming to you for the next Friday the 13th, what would you do? I really had to go back to a plan that I had like 6 or 7 years ago when I was working in development, and I developed a Friday the 13th script. And what makes that film good is the themes and the characters and the familiar setting of and then also not only having a familiar setting, but having a launch pad for something that's going to turn into a beautiful 3-act story, on the thing, like what we've always wanted out of 2, 3, and 4, or 1 through 4, is connectivity, that at the end of it, you can say that, like, this could really happen. Jason could really be out there, and eventually get it to a place where it might be a little bit beyond. He might not be supernatural, but you see that he's beyond human in a way, and not even like in a superhuman way, but just more that, like, he's that friggin' tough, like a Myers in a way. Like Myers in part 4 survived the burning in a way. That Jason would kind of have this ability to really take a beating and keep going, but never really be put down in a way until, like, really the final thing. And maybe he never gets put down. So it's really a cool, but with that, and then I also want to do the Never Hike stuff. I want to take to the streaming world. I think the Never Hike style of, like, doing Revenant Jason, I think the smartest thing to do would be put together like an 8-episode, Love, Death, Robots type thing, where it's like you basically get 8 episodes. They don't connect. They're all individual anthology stories, and they can be about any Jason at any time. 8 different directors.
See, that would be amazing. I would love to see that. I mean,
get 8 Friday the 13th.
I gotta say though, please finish the current storyline first.
That's the goal. I mean, my whole thing is like I think where I stand and looking at it realistically with my experience and things like that. Do I think I could direct the next Friday the 13th? Absolutely. I have 100% belief in myself and confidence that I could take that job and I could do something really special for the fans.
I think you could too, because you proved it already. I mean,
And I also see it from the perspective of Warner Brothers and New Line. Like, who am I? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I made something on YouTube, some people like it, but they're gonna go hire the guy who just won, who just made millions of bucks for some other thing. So I get it.
well,
You know,
maybe. I mean,
and there are plenty of directors who would do a great Friday the 13th out there, and I feel like if anything, I would love to just sit in a room and talk to them about like, hey, here are the filmmakers here out on the market who are really kicking ass that like would be great. They bring a real good spin to it. Let me help you develop a story. Why don't you go make that feature film over there and give me a streaming series over here? And I'll go work on the streaming series, consult on the live action, and just kind of John Favreau this stuff. Let me just kind of be the wheel that turns for Friday the 13th. And I'll kind of Kevin Feige it in a way, but let's go find the right person to launch the vision of the new series arc, and then let's get something launched on streaming, and then let's think about like some of the other places that Jason go, where we left off in video games, things like that. It's like if they handed me the reins of Friday the 13th tomorrow, we would be talking about all the avenues in which Jason needs to be inserted into popular culture, because he is the most popular. I don't care. I mean, Michael's popular, but there's something about Jason that like I think that Jason, when you insert him into the world, he's the one who gets the biggest reaction. When I walk around conventions, there's always more Jasons than there are Myers, and Myers is an easier costume to put together. But
the thing is,
biases of Friday the 13th.
We're going to get into a huge debate here if I'm not careful, because I got into this debate with my friend Horrific Nightmares Jam. He's a huge Friday the 13th fan. I'm more of a Halloween person myself. But as a kid growing up, I was more of a Freddy Krueger person. And to me, Freddy Krueger is the ultimate villain in the Big Five, because of for me, like, I love Michael the best, but Freddy is the one that has the character. You know what I mean? And I think one of the reasons you don't see a lot of Freddy cosplay is because, one, it's very hard to pull off. That makeup job is, I mean, you're going to look like a cheap mask if you don't do it right. And then two, who can be Freddy besides Robert Englund? Obviously, Jackie Riley couldn't do it. I mean,
it's tough. You know what I mean? Like he, Robert is Freddy, and I think that that's one thing. It's like Robert is Freddy, but what's great about Jason, and I talked to my brothers about this, which was like we were camping at the Never Hike Alone camp. We did this thing called the Brothers Thanksgiving a few years in a row, and we would go up to the camp and spend a night in the camp. And one night we had a little fire going, and I had the mask out, and I was like, what's really funny? It's like that mask is so popular. Like, it's going to outlive us all. Like, it doesn't matter how long the franchise goes on. Like, people will always identify with that mask. And I really think it really comes down to that. And that's what I mean by the popular culture. It's like Freddy is the character, blah, blah, blah. But the most iconic thing in horror is this. You know what I mean? Like this look, these eyes, this mask. Like, there's something about it that is so simplistic, so easy to replicate. And everyone identifies with it as one of the faces of fear. I mean, I think you can say the same thing about Michael. And I think you can do the same thing with Freddy and even Leatherface to a certain degree, and maybe Pinhead, Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein.
More Chucky, in my opinion.
But when you look at, whether who is on top or not, when you look at the value of this mask on the open market of film and genre filmmaking, it speaks for itself. It's going to make its money back. But the problem is that the production of the films has stipend. They haven't been able to make a lot of them because they've been trying to make big movies. Like, they made a $50 million movie with Freddy versus Jason. They made a lot of money on it. They made a $20 million with Platinum Dunes. They made their money on when it went to video, but it didn't do the success in the theater that it wanted to do. Jason Goes to Hell, pretty much the same thing. It kind of ran out of steam. So maybe it's just time to make smarter movies for less money that focus on things that are going to get people in the theater. So the same way. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. I apologize.
I guess what I was going to get to is that, like, it's about being smart with the story, and, getting a film, that first film really has to set the tone, really has to get people hooked in to know that they're going to come back. They need to go do that word of mouth thing. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about Never Hike Alone is right where you said before was I bought 4 discs for my 4 friends because they had to see it. Those are the types of films that we want to make as filmmakers. And that's what Friday the 13th needs. It needs one of those films that's like part 6 that is so damn good. You have to drag your friends to see it. It just, it just goes over the expectations. It doesn't hit the old bullseyes again. It averts them. It keeps you guessing and then finally leaves you at the end of the movie going like, oh my God, I need to see more of this. That's what we want. And I think that's what Friday the 13th needs. It can't just do the old song and dance anymore. That they tap dance that dance out. It's been done to death, not only by them, but by every horror movie that has copied them since, and every movie that they copied from the 1970s in Italy. But it is time for it's time for something new in Friday the 13th.
It really is. And they're missing out.
Mm-hmm.
They're missing out right now because let's face facts. Halloween 2018 blew those doors wide open again for the resurgence of these characters. It showed Halloween 2018 is a $10 million film. They threw it in the theaters and it made what, $300 million, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it made 90 times its budget.
Yeah, I mean, and look at the and if you look at the critical reception of it, it's something that like wasn't even like a Get Out. Like think about how popular Get Out was.
Mm-hmm.
And like how universally praised that movie was. Like Halloween didn't even get that type of universal praise, but I don't know if it outperformed Get Out. I don't know.
It did. I didn't even. Yeah, it outperformed Get Out and Us.
You know what I mean? So it's even when these films like, as long as it's like, and that's what it is. There's a line in Halloween 18, even though it's not a perfect film, it gave it a new, fresh thing, and so people are interested in seeing where this goes. And I think that's what I think Friday the 13th needs some things. I just don't think I would jump as many sharks as 2018 did.
You know what? I know a lot of people have their, but I think it's pretty close to a damn near perfect film as far as where that franchise needs to go right now. The only issue I had with it was them taking away the brother sister angle, and the way that they captured Michael, because it takes away the ending to the original. It's like, remember him backing up and you see him the point of view going farther and farther away. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean,
it kind of takes that away from it.
I think for me, there was just like a little hiccup in the film where I was ready for it to get going and keep going, because that's what that's what John Carpenter's Halloween does. It gets going at one point and it doesn't stop. Like the minute it gets to that point, the film just becomes like a never ending, like adrenaline ride to get to the end. And it felt like in 2018 when they did the whole like Sarkeesian thing, and like that felt weird. Him taking the mask off Michael and somebody else wearing it. I had real reservations about that. I think
that's why Michael actually killed him.
Oh, definitely. It's why he squashed his head.
You took my mask. Screw you.
But I think what undid that moment for me was, or even like, it wasn't even that moment. It was the moment where like the kid falls on the grate and dies, her friend, and then she sees Michael and she runs away, and she like just immediately runs up to a house and gets help. Like I was just like, run. Like I want to see her run all the way to her grandmother's house, and I want to see a chase the entire way there. And then I want to see them all meet up. And then like you could have cut out all that stuff and just had one long ass chase. And it would have been like that Mad Max scene, at the beginning of like the new Mad Max movie, where it's just like, it's like an adrenaline rush for the first 15 minutes. And then you go, you know what I mean? Like until she gets into that house, but make it a struggle for her to get away. Put her through some of those like Laurie Strode, tent poles of like trying to survive against Michael, and then getting to her, to her grandmother, and then them surviving as a family and doing what they do in the house. It just felt,
and I kind of think that's what they're going to do in the next film,
I guess,
because in my so-called expert opinion, I think Laurie's going to die in the next film. I think Laurie's going to die in Kills, and it's going to go on to be the daughter and the granddaughter. But the one thing, as much as I love the original Halloween, and I think it's the greatest horror film ever made, I always wondered why people didn't answer the door when she's running around banging on doors, asking for help and screaming, and nobody. Where is everybody? They were just there 20 minutes ago.
They're sleeping. I mean, isn't that the whole thing? It's like that's like the horror film. It's like you can't find anyone who's home
Yeah.
or awake. And, you know, sometimes people think that people are just playing pranks. You know what I mean? I think that that's like the ultimate, isn't that like the ultimate, like horror movie, like trope, is that like every time the kids show up to say that they're in trouble, the parents are like, they're messing around because they're kids and it's Halloween.
Mhm.
We don't really believe them. You know what I mean?
We used to mess around like that too, and they called the cops on us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's been a few of those too.
So, uh, one of my friends wanted me to ask you, what is your favorite Jason kill all time, anywhere?
Oh, I believe it's Mark Kill in part 2. He gets the machete to the face
Okay.
and rolls
Mhm.
backwards down the stairs. That blew me away when I was a kid.
Awesome. Awesome. So, without going and giving any spoilers or anything like that away, because I know you don't want to do that, what can you tell us to expect more in the next segment for Never Hike in the Snow and, Never Hike Alone 2? And I saw on IMDb, and I don't know if it's true or somebody just put it on there, that you guys already got the license for Never Hike Alone 3.
Well, what we're doing is we took, somebody just keeps like updating my IMDb, and I have no clue who does it.
Mm.
But we took Never Hike Alone 2 and split it up into 3 sequels. And then we added Never Hike in the Snow to it as a prologue. So Never Hike in the Snow is a prologue to Never Hike Alone. And then the sequel, which was Never Hike Alone 2, which was a feature film that we were going to try to pitch to the studios. What we ended up doing was splitting it up into 3 episodes so we could actually afford to crowdfund it. Because as one long movie, not going to be able to afford that unless we raise like $500,000. Like, I'm going to need to get that check that Sean got to make this movie, because it's a real full-fledged film. I mean, it's not, there's no corners I can cut anymore. It's like all those favors have been cashed in, and now I have to go get the real things. And so with what we did was we split it up into 3 acts. So like basically we called it Never Hike Alone 2, Never Hike Alone 3, and Never Hike Alone 4. And they each have like a subtitle, which will be their main title, kind of like Never Hike in the Snow. We'll have Never Hike Again, Jason Takes Crystal Lake,
Mhm.
and The Final Hike. And so those are kind of the 3 chapters of this story. And in the first chapter of the story, which is Never Hike Again, it's the story of Tommy Jarvis and how he comes to meet Kyle MacLeod. And we get to fill in that part of the story that people didn't see. So we get to see the reasons why it's called Never Hike Again is because it's Never Hike Alone again, but all from the perspective of Tommy Jarvis. So we see Tommy as he's living in, Crystal Lake in modern day. We get to see what a day in the life of what Tommy's like. And how he still experiences like these PTSD episodes with Jason. There's a little bit of the part 5 coming to life in this film. We get to see a little bit of backstory, and as far as like kind of what's been going on with him and Rick. We see a little bit of the fallout from Never Hike in the Snow, of kind of what some of the mystery that's kind of still there. And then we also pick up with the Diana Hill character, 3 months later, and kind of all those things happening. And eventually we get the call out to Kyle MacLeod, who has been found by the Ranger Service, and we go through the scene out there, and basically see it all from Tommy's perspective. We're going to see what happens outside of the ambulance. We're going to see what happens to the other 2 paramedics. We're going to see what happens after they drive away. So it's kind of an encapsulation of, like, I kind of liken it to Back to the Future 2. Like, we're going to see some scenes that we saw before, but we're going to see it from a different perspective. And it's going to bring the story of Kyle MacLeod into Tommy's world. And then that leaves us off for the next episode, which is Jason Takes Crystal Lake. So this is when the first time in however many decades that Jason has actually come to town. And this is like the Halloween 2 of the film. They go to a hospital.
Yeah,
After
I want to see that. I want to see Jason in the hospital.
basically it's Tommy and Kyle back at the hospital, trying to, there's some things going on there. I don't want to give away what's going to be going on there,
Right.
but basically Jason is working his way through town, and kind of like in part 6, when he's raised up in the cemetery and works his way back to the camp, he kills everybody in between. So we're going to have a lot of that. That's when Jason Takes Crystal Lake is when the film really starts to like pick up in body count.
Okay.
Like, we're going to do a lot of kills in that one.
Nice.
Eventually they get to the hospital. There's, in the meantime, we also have Rick. And so when dead bodies start popping up in Crystal Lake, Rick isn't necessarily ready to admit that Jason is real because he's never seen Jason. He was locked in a
Right.
jail cell. He just came there and he heard a bunch of excuses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he's always had an eye on Tommy. So when bodies start dropping, Rick is going to kind of look at Tommy as a suspect. So Tommy, who needs the help
Right.
of Kyle to figure out this thing that he's discovered, he's got to wait for Kyle because Kyle is coming back. He's not in the best shape. You know, there's got to be, you know, he's going to have injuries. There's surgeries that have got to be performed. So he's going to be waiting for this kid to wake up. And so while he's got to be killing time, he's got to figure out what happened. So Tommy has to put the pieces together of what happened to this kid. How did he get away from Jason? What is going on? And so he finds clues, like kind of going through some stuff, and then realizes that this kid might have the key to actually ending Jason once and for all, but he needs his help. And so, you know, at that point, it's like, it really comes down to like, if Kyle's going to, you know, answer the call, and, you know, it's going to continue the story like into the final hike, which is after the events of the ambulance. I mean, not the ambulance, the events of the hospital, when Jason comes to the hospital and he starts murdering a bunch of people, and he's trying to chase down Tommy and chase down Kyle and chase down Anna and chase down Rick, or Diana and Rick, that, you know, the survivors of that melee are going to unite and go back to the camp, and they got to return the camp to, you know, put an end to the curse once and for all. And that's what they're going to try to do, is not try to kill Jason, but they're going to try to kill the curse. And they're going to try to put Jason to rest for good. And, you know, it's not as easy as that. And so that's really what the final episode's about. It's a big showdown at the camp. There's a lot of stunt sequences. We're going to see Tommy fight Jason, like hardcore fight Jason in every episode. Nice. So now it's becoming Tommy's story. And that's really what we're focusing on, is the fact that this is Tommy's true ending. This is Tommy's ending. This is Tommy's story. This is the final chapter in the Tommy Jarvis saga. And at the end of it, one way or another, we're going to have closure. We're going to have that closure that if we never made another Friday the 13th for the rest of time, and I hope that doesn't happen, you know, but if this was the last Friday the 13th, you could walk away at the end of this film and go, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
if that's how it is, you know, okay.
It's kind of like that H2O thing where at the end, when she cuts his head off, and you're like, okay, it's done. No. You can't do anything after that. It's done.
Yeah, I mean that, but I feel like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it really is that in a way, like, you know, we want that type of like finality to it. We want it to feel like, okay, like so Jason is at rest.
Does any of that depend on Andrew and Tom saying yes, or has that already been decided?
I mean, they're in. I mean, Andrew's in, Tom's in, Vin's in. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, it's not a matter of people wanting to do it, because we all want to do it really, really badly. It's a matter of putting together the logistics for it, raising the funding for it, putting in the time. Like right now, like I'm not making movies as you know, as feverishly as I would, because I'm still waiting on manufacturing. You know what I mean? Like this is the other part of my career. Like when I'm not making movies, I'm hawking Blu-rays and trying to get them to people because they allowed me to make the movie. And without them, I can't do it. I mean, I would love to step away from the standpoint of like, I could just go make movies and someone else can sell my movie. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about like shipping every kid. Best Buy can do it, and Amazon can do it.
And as long as you keep having these physical ones, you'll be getting my $30 or whatever it is every time.
Sure. Yeah,
because I mean, well, that's like for me to get the physical is the big payoff for somebody like me, because I could go watch it on YouTube for free, but I want to hold it in my hand. I want to, you know, and I wish I could. I wish I could afford to give, you know, the $500-$600 every time, but I can't.
No, you can't. And that's what we're trying to convince people, is that like I mean, I'm too empathetic when it comes to it, because I really hate taking people's money, and like, you know, it's well,
you're giving them some return. The
I
stuff
know,
you guys have
but
given is so amazing.
It's still like asking people, you know, it's still asking, especially like now, you know what I mean? Like it gets really kind of questionable for me. And I got to realize, you know, I'm trying to like draw the line of like what is affordable and what's that. But I think, you know, and then having to like literally like rely on people to like, you know, we had a backer who gave us $10,000. I mean, that was a huge backing. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, if you can afford to do that, I say go for it. You want to see something to get done, because
please, whoever's got $10,000 burning in their pocket, or 50 or 100, please call me.
I got 2 little kids and a job. I can't afford $10,000.
So here's the thing.
I'll tell you what. When I saw my name on the list of backers in the credits of Never Hike in the Snow, because I think I was too late for the film to be put on the list for that one. But when I got, I was like elated. You know, I mean, I didn't do nothing but pay $30 so I can get a Blu-ray. You know, I was so elated to see my, like, holy cow, my name's on that movie. That's awesome.
And then
You
we're
know?
married together for the rest of the time. And
Yeah.
I think what it is that I guess what I'm trying to get to is my goal is not to have 20 people support the movie if we're going to do this. You know what I mean? Like, give me 5,000 people that all have to just give me like 15, $20.
Well, I'm not sure what your view
5,000,
count for Never Hike Alone is now. What is it now?
2.3 million, 2.2
If every
million.
single one of those people gave $1,
Yeah, but it's a
and
lot of
say
rewatches.
it's only say it's yeah, it's exactly say it's
You know what?
say you got 900,000 actual people that have rewatched it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll that's $900,000 right there. I mean, you
yeah,
can make
that's
6
really what it
movies
comes
with
down to. I really wish that, think about, all right, let me put a number out there that's actually more like, that's even like, that's actually relatable, which is,
that.
how about all the Friday the 13th fans that are in the world? How many exist? It's got to be millions, right?
Millions.
At that point, we'd own the studio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's that. I want to see more people. That list of credits I Never Hike in the Snow is almost as long as the movie. You know, and there's something cool about that. We had to go to 4 bars, 4 rows of names, and it's still 10 minutes long. And it's just, that's how many people joined in. That's how many people that we touched. The first movie was 277 people, and I thought that was a lot. Man, 2,500 people, that's a lot of people.
Well, if you need a way to cut a corner, you need a free actor. I'll come do it for free.
All right.
You're filming in New Mexico. I'll be an extra.
Give me those tax breaks. Give me that incentive.
I don't even need you don't have to pay me at all. I'm cool. I'll do it just for the fun of it.
At the end of the day, we want to give our effects artists what they need. We want to be able to, like, house our crew. We want to be able to, like, make an incentive. Like, if I had to, like, the nice thing is like, I can't take any cash from it, but I can go find people that, like, I can hire them as independent contractors. And it makes me feel good to go out and be like, okay, I'm going to go find a great team to go do this, and they're going to give me a good price on it. Everybody gives me discounts. Everybody understands that, like, there's no money to be made off of this. And, like, the goal of these films is it becomes like this. It's like independent filmmaking camp in a way. It's like we go off to step above a little bit what we are limited to usually, because as independent filmmakers, like you said, like, yeah, people will look at Never Hike Alone because Jason's in it. And I say this to people all the time. It's like, the only reason why I sell so many of these discs is because it's got a hockey mask on the cover. But when you take that away and you look at all these other independent filmmakers, it's like, they need the attention too. They need the support. And, we made, Pathosis for $15,000, which is a fraction of the cost. And half of that came out of personal budgets. You know what I mean? And then we had to raise more money. And it was a real struggle to get support for that. And we need equal support for that stuff too. Like our new film that's coming out, it's going to be called Ghost Chicken. I'm trying to avoid having to crowdfund it. Because I don't want to have to, like, I'd rather raise the money properly for it and get it made rather than, have it be like, oh, I raised $50,000, but I can only afford $25,000 because it's going to cost me $25,000 to actually ship everything, so it's like, it's such a catch-22 with doing crowdfunding, and it really only works when you have, like, an overabundance of support. And we've had tremendous support, but the types of ideas that we're going for, the types of, like, things we need in order to execute it, when you actually ask the question of, like, okay, how can I get that? The answer is you need to pay a lot of money. Like, they cost money, like everything. It's like everything you see on screen that looks awesome, splitting a guy's head in half, blowing a dude's head off with a shotgun, like driving to these remote locations and shooting stuff and having to set up base camps and do all that. It's all money. And we try to put as much of it on the screen as possible. And, unfortunately with crowdfunding, like, a lot of it ends up in the pocket of the business side of it. It ends up in the pocket of being like, okay, no, I got to put this 20 grand off to the side and I can't use it for the film because I need to afford 2,000 shipping expenses. You know what I mean? It's like, I got to do all these things. I got to buy this. I got to buy that. Like, you got to be really smart with it. And, I think at the end of Never Hike Alone, I found myself in a real problem because I underestimated that. And so a lot of that came out of my personal account. And, I had to pay for it myself. And so we got to be really cautious as we go forward, because I can't do that too many times. And I had to do it a little bit on Never Hike in the Snow too. I mean, at the end of the day, I was like, I want this. And throwing money at it. Like,
Mhm.
don't tell me I can't have this. I'll pay whatever I need to pay. I'll take whatever debt I need to take, but I need this.
You're obviously not Rob Zombie, who, like, because he had to crowdfund for 31 and for
Yeah, but he's got how many
for
fans?
yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, he could still pull out the money that he wanted and just throw it at it without blinking.
Yeah,
He
if he
he
wants,
has
he
it.
wants to
You
invest
don't.
a million into it, he
You
might
don't
have
have
that.
that your luxury.
Maybe he doesn't invest a million, but he could probably take a couple grand out easy.
Yeah.
I take a couple grand out, I'm crying. Like, oh God, what
If
am
I
I
take
doing?
a couple grand out, I'm looking for the gun.
Oh, jeez.
Uh,
Yeah.
so there is still one more segment, at least one more, for the Never Hike in the Snow, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we want to do 3 more.
For Never Hike in the Snow to lead up to Never Hike Alone.
No. Would Never Hike Again? It will pick up 3 months later, and you'll have the connectivity. You'll get it.
Okay.
Like, it's laced in. It's
Mhm.
just that it just takes place 3 months later.
Because the
Go
only
ahead.
real complaint I ever see for Never Hike in the Snow is the same thing I have, is like it ended at that 30-minute mark, basically, where you were so into it, you were so hyped, and that kill at the end was so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, wait, no, don't stop. Keep
I know.
going.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, and when it does get to that point, when
Mhm.
it's going to roll into the next story, it would be like, the idea is, if we had all the money, we would have just shot it all at once. It
Right.
flows right into the next piece.
Mhm.
Um, and there are things that I would have loved to have done. Like, I would have loved to have been able to go out and shoot like a bunch of people in like sheriff's jackets, scouring a hillside. But guess what? The snow that winter sucked. We barely
Mhm.
got any snow. I wanted feet of snow, and we got the only storm that weekend, and that storm melted by the time we were done shooting.
And you're
We
still
were
shooting in the same location up in Northern
And this year,
California?
it's under so much snow right now. I'm so angry. Like, this year, it's just getting dumped on. It's the normal winters that I'm used to out here. Like, when I go up into
Vincent
Big Bear.
Disanti stars in the next Never Hike Alone, where they find his body because he went out alone to get the footage.
I know. And so, like, it was kind of like it kind of hindered me and limited me in what I could do. Like, I wanted a winter
Mhm.
wonderland. I worked with what I got. And we made the best of what we got.
I
And
thought
that's
it
that's
looked great. I thought it looked great. That
I think the
scene with
movie looks
Jason,
cool.
yeah, with Jason and the bow,
Mm,
I've wanted to see that forever because we
That's
saw Jason with the bow in
2000.
part 9, or not part 9, in the 2009, and then of course we've seen him with the harpoon gun, and we've seen him twice with the harpoon gun, actually.
Yep.
We've seen him with other weapons that are not just his machete.
Mhm.
And like when we reviewed the original films, my buddy and I, we would put all the different weapons Jason used on the table in front of us, showing
Mm.
that it's not just that machete that Jason's known for. If you really watch the franchise, he hardly uses the machete.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we use the axe more than the machete.
Mm-hmm.
The axe has really become like the staple weapon for Ghost Chasing, that yellow axe. We introduced the yellow arrows, which was really cool,
Yeah, that
which
was
was
dope.
inspired by Bill's death in part 1.
And there's
And
something that you would
Megan,
find at a kids camp. You would
exactly.
find those laying around.
To
You
do.
know.
We're trying to bring that quality to it. That he's actually been living in a camp for all these years, and I think the 2009 did that to a certain degree. But we wanted to take it to another level, I think, and yeah, I mean for with the ending of Never Hike in the Snow, it was really about saying, this is the end of the first story. This is the pilot episode. This is where it ends. This is the mystery we leave you with. See you next week, type thing.
Mhm.
And we never anticipated COVID, because we thought that spring we were
Yeah.
going to be able to, like, there were things that if COVID wasn't going on, I probably could have convinced Tom to come up with me and shoot parts of the opening of Never Hike Again.
Mhm.
At least one key scene. And it would have answered a lot of questions. And it will answer questions. But the other thing I was talking about was, like, I wanted to have like people in sheriff's jackets, like, scouring the hillside with helicopter shots and like all
Mhm.
this stuff. And at that point, I couldn't pull people together. I couldn't do it. And, so it was just kind of like, what I do, like, we were going to, like, the ending would have just been like the newscast thing that we did in, for the Ghost Cut. But it would have had just like more like actual footage of like the behind the scenes and stuff like that. But as far as the story goes, there wasn't much story left to tell. in that part of this thing, because it's really after that Jason disappears. You know, by the time the cops get there the next morning, by the time everything kind of goes down, like Jason has wiped his tracks clean, and these people are just gone. And it leaves more of that empty mystery of like, this is the back and forth. And so like, we're going to get a little bit of that in Never Hike Again. So I'm kind of spoiling a little bit, but you're really going to get to the point, like, say you are the sheriff and you do believe that Jason exists. Well, what happens when you bring the FBI down and you go into the camp and there's no one there? They're going to look at you like you're crazy. And if you do it enough times, they're going to fire you. So what's the smarter thing to do? Do I keep calling the cavalry and going down there and looking like an asshole? Or do I build a really big fence around it and try to keep people out? And that's the best I can do. If you go in there, you go missing. I can't explain it. It's just like the Bermuda Triangle. Don't go in there. I give you my warning. You break my warning. That's your own damn fault. Nothing I can do about it.
That's where keeping that serious drama you talked about in the Friday the 13th comes in. Because, I mean, we've seen in the main franchise in Jason Goes to Hell, where they did do that. They brought in the FBI, and then we had the big explosion and all this and that, So where you're going from is you're going from a more practical standpoint with what's this guy doing? Like you said, he's never seen Jason. He doesn't believe most of the stories. He knows that there's something going on, but he doesn't know what. He thinks Tommy's behind it.
If he ever did anything, he was made to look like a fool. If he ever did anything, he was made to look like a fool. And I wish I could go show that scene and go back in time and do that. Maybe we'll add that as like a bit of like, I've been down there, like, and I like never again. You know what I mean? Like I didn't find anything. And you know what? I started to realize that maybe the only ghost around here, is like walking these halls. You know what I mean? It's like basically it's this guy. Like the only reason why Jason's still alive because this guy still talks about him, and maybe he'll go to the lengths to prove, like just like part 6, he's gonna kill people just to prove that Jason's alive. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to mask these kills, his kills, to say that Jason's still out there, so it gives him purpose and an excuse to kill people.
Right.
And like it's a real crime that he has to solve. He has to think, and Rick's boneheaded about it. You know what I mean? Like, but the audience knows more than he does. And that's what makes him such a good villain in a way. It creates this obstacle for Tommy. So it's not just Tommy versus Jason. There's still that element of like what Sheriff Garris brought to part 6. Now Rick's going to bring to these episodes. And I think it's really key to build their relationship and have their chemistry on screen go that way. But that's kind of what we're going to address at the front of the film, is that like basically no one can prove that Jason exists. Not even Tommy can prove that Jason exists. It's like, well, if he's here, then show him to me.
Yeah, Jason's going to have to put in that appearance, basically.
That appearance, but Jason is smarter, and that's what I'm trying to get at. This Jason is smarter.
And I love that. I love it. He's
not an idiot. He's not going to walk into a trap. He's going to see people coming from a mile away.
Yeah, he isn't the Kane Hodder lumbering Jason. That's what I love about him. He's the smart Jason that you see in 2, 3, somewhat 3, 4, and in 6 you see, you see that he's Ghost Jason. He is the kind of the after the part 6 kind of undead Jason, but he's also not the brainless zombie Jason. He has a brain. He knows what he's doing. He's figuring things out. And that's the Jason I think that Jason always should have been.
So where that comes from for me and the character-wise is the fact that when I think about who Jason was as a child, he was a deformed child who wanted to fit in, who probably longed to be with the other children. And so what did he do? He stayed out in the shadows, he stayed hidden, and he watched. It's a very thematic theme in Friday the 13th, the POV vision, staying out of sight, staying out of the way. Because what happens if the kids found him? What would happen? They'd probably beat him up,
pick on him, made fun of,
Exactly. So what does Jason know how to do? He knows how to stay away. And so like I think what I'm trying to play off of is that like when Jason was reborn into this walking death curse, he had that rage. He had his mother's rage. It was burning bright. And every time it inflamed in him, he went out and he killed all these people. But what happened at the end of the time, every time he killed these people? He got a machete to the shoulder. He got an axe to the head. He got a machete to the face. He got buried 6 feet down. He got shot by lightning and stood back up. He got drowned at the bottom of the sea. He got at the bottom of the lake. Again at the bottom of the lake. He got washed out by toxic sewage. And that's where I stopped that part of the story.
Yeah, thank God. Thank you.
So all these things have happened to him, and he's starting to realize that, like, holy shit, this is a bad plan. Like, I have a bad strategy. I think maybe what I should go back to is whatever I did between parts 1 and 2, which is stay hidden. And if anybody comes out here, I'll take care of them. But that's it. I'm not venturing out of here. I'm going to protect my house. This is where I live. If I am going to live forever, and this is what's going to be my life, I just want to spend as much time with my mom as possible, and I want to be left alone. I'm Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, and I'm just going to stay up in my little attic, and I'm not going to do anything. But what happens? People like Mark come poking around. People like the kids and Disappear come around, start making noise. And he's got to step in, he's going to do it. But when those people disappear, he makes sure they disappear for good. And what's the big difference in the series is the fact that the art of change, or like the spark of change in this entire realm of the new existence of Jason, of being this really stealthy killer who's able to get away with things, like at the end of Never Hike in the Snow, he gets away with murdering a kid and a cop, and he still manages to disappear, only for one reason: no one got away. But what happens in Never Hike Alone? Someone gets away. And now everything is going to change. And that's the agent of change in this whole thing, is the fact that when we get to the end of Never Hike Again, and we get to that point where they really do get away from Jason, he doesn't get that final kill. He knows his time is up. This is like this is Code Zero. This is DEFCON whatever, highest thing. I'm after all these years of evading Tommy, of killing everybody who's coming to the camp, finally someone got away, and now they're going to come looking for me. And I got to put an end to this person. And you know what? Screw it. I'm so pissed off right now. That fire starts to burn in him again because he hasn't been bested in a decade. You know what I mean? Like, he's finally been on top of his game. And this long-haired Charlie Hunnam looking mother effer has come in
Charlie Hunnam
with his friggin' camera, and he's got me on tape. You know what I mean? He's got me on tape. I can't disprove that now. I can't just disappear. Now they're going to look harder, and everything's at risk. So you know what? I'm going to kill them all. And that's the Jason we want to see, right?
Right, exactly.
I just couldn't afford that 4 years ago.
Right.
Now, maybe with everybody's support, I can afford that. And that's what we want to see. Now there's shit on the line. Now everyone's got something to lose. And now Jason's almost got nothing to lose. So now, and that's the difference between all these stories, is now Jason has something to lose. And that's what we want to build up towards. We want to build up towards, Tommy's struggle of, being that character at the end of Never Hike Alone, where he doesn't even believe that Jason's out there himself, because he's looked so many times and never found anything, that he's really going to give it up, because if he keeps doing this shit, he's going to become Crazy Ralph. And the last thing he wants to do is become Crazy Ralph, because no one will talk to him. Barely anyone talks to him now. So you know what I mean? So there's stuff that's thematically Friday the 13th, that it's finally going to be less cliche and more like, holy shit, no, that's really powerful. That's actually a real that's a real good character drive, or this is a really good conundrum. No one can solve this problem. It's not that easy. And I think that that's the cool thing. And that's what I love about Friday the 13th, is underneath the surface of all the silliness, there's actually really cool storylines. And if you follow them, they lead to a very emotional and beautiful ending.
There are some good storylines, and I don't want to get in. Well, I mean, I would love to get into a huge debate. I don't know how much time you want to do, but yeah, I've always felt that the Halloween franchise was more that higher story arc variant, where Friday the 13th was a little bit lower. Friday the 13th was just, let's get a bunch of kids that nobody cares about, a bunch of characters we don't care about, and kill them.
I think that, I mean, they did. I mean, I think that Halloween adopted the kill 'em all, but they did try to string together some type of story. It ended up being the Thorn trilogy, which, say your piece about how you want that. I mean, I don't know.
I love the Thorn trilogy. I'm a huge Thorn trilogy fan.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. It has that mythology to it, and I feel that in Friday the 13th is the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. That 4, 5, 6 arc. That part where Jason's already established, but the true story arc is the boy to the teenager to the man. and following that. And the last piece of that puzzle is the man at the end of his life.
Right.
You know, at the late age, the grandfather, he is now Obi-Wan. You know
All
what I
right.
mean? Like that's what he is in this world. And Kyle is our Luke Skywalker, and Diana is our Princess Leia, you know, and Jason's our Darth Vader, but I guess the Palpatine would be Rick, in a way.
Except for lightning shooting from his finger, he's got the glowing dot.
Bang! There we go.
I meant to tell you this back when we were talking about Rick, but I know he's got the newer gun now with the red dot, scope, the nicer, sleek line red dot. I would love to see, like, hanging in his office or something behind him, that giant freaking scope from the,
Yeah, like his first one, he's got it
yeah,
mounted
that
on the
would just
back.
be cool.
All right, yeah. All right, I'll put that in the script. I'll try to get that.
I don't know if I heard this from you in another interview or if I read it, but one of the things, I think it was in another interview, you were talking about the backstory of what Tommy's doing there, and you said something, I think it was that Tommy's been kind of sticking around the Crystal Lake area his whole life because he's watching out for Jason, because he's looking, and then his sister comes in and is like, hey, come to the family reunion or something like that, or get away from there. Why are you there?
I mean, I think I might have like riffed on that, like with how that would have been, but really, yeah, Never Hike Alone is really about, I mean, what we want to get into, it's like Tommy never left. It was, and what I think what I might have been talking about is actually the Jennifer storyline of the fact that she wanted to leave. Her dad died there. She wasn't originally from there and she wanted to go, but Tommy, he grew up there. It's the only place he's ever known. He's known that in an insane asylum. So, in Pinehurst. So, he's kind of like a creature of habit, but I think that like if there was ever a moment where he went away, it would have been like during part 7 and 8. Like 7, he was just unaware. And then in part 8, he was, there's nothing he could do about it. You know what I mean? Like he was in New York and like he heard reports, but there was nothing he could do. And to me, I was like, when I had to work him into the ambulance scene, I weighed in my head, I'm like, could Tommy be an EMT or do I have to bring him and have him be something else? And what made me feel that like Tommy would make a good EMT, it's that like when Tommy looked at the crime scenes, because he could never become a cop, who did he see walking around all the crime scenes? The EMTs. So if there's ever a crime scene, if there's ever another murder, like in part 7, where like all those emergency workers are walking around the house and picking things up and picking up the mask and doing stuff, Tommy wants that access. What can he actually do? And what does he want to do? And I think that, from a character arc standpoint, like for him to become an EMT, I think it's a nice, like, it's like that, like, it's like a blue collar job that it's like really respectable. You're out there saving lives. You're trying to do the best. And I think for all the trauma that Tommy has suffered, I think going out and saving lives would do him some good, because he probably feels a lot of responsibility for bringing Jason back from the dead in part 6 and killing all those people that happened in every movie then afterward. So I think part of him was like, I need to give back. I need to make up for these things that I've done. I really wish I could kill Jason, but if I can't kill Jason, maybe I can save a few people. And if something ever does happen, I'll be there on the ground to be able to investigate. And when something happens and the cops try to cover up, I'm going to catch it on the radio and I'm going to go investigate it. So like even in the game, they got the CB radio that you can call Tommy on. Why not have him be an AMT that has access to this stuff? And like kind of, I think it kind of works with the character. It puts him in the hospital. And I think it's an interesting background for him to have. And I think when you start to see how it plays into his daily life, I think fans are going to appreciate, this elder statesman Tommy and what he's grown into as an adult man.
Yeah, I definitely think that really works into it, because like you said, he had to have chosen the profession. He had to have chosen to be an EMT, because with all the talent that Tommy showed and, things he did, the masks, all the stuff, he could have very easily have gone into movie making or anything else, so he chose it because he could get that, like you said, he could get that access, he could be in there.
Yeah, I think that Tommy still exists. I think it's his passion project. It's his way of dealing with things. He's not doing it for anybody but himself. He doesn't make masks to like, do anything but just be creative. And, like I said, like imagine part 7 right now. Imagine the end of that movie. Now imagine Tommy standing at the edge of the do not cross line, trying to get a look, you know, and if Rick was somewhere there in the mix, he wasn't in that movie, but imagine if Rick was still there and he's getting him kicked out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, how does Rick get him kicked out when he's the EMT? And Tommy noticing that, and like, like when I got that vision in my head, it just all made sense. And I was like, that, yeah, of course he wants the pass to get behind the line. You know what I mean? It's like he wants access. He wants to figure this out. He feels determined to end Jason. And that's what happens with him and Meg. You know, it's like Meg leaves him because he's too obsessed about it. And that becomes his story arc, is that how his obsession with this has ruined his life. And, you know, him dealing with that and really like thinking about it, like for the last 20 years, he's been chasing Jason, lost the love of his life, you know, ends up alone living in Crystal Lake. And what does he have to show for it?
Right.
You know, he's got a couple acquaintances that he rides in a van with. You know, he's got his, you know, his life at home. He's got his own little solitude, but he doesn't have any closure. And he doesn't have that feeling that, you know, it's over, because where he left Jason, he's no longer there. And he can't account for where Jason is. So he's still got to be out there somewhere, because Jason can never die. And I'm still seeing him everywhere. Am I mentally crazy or am I cursed?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions we want to ask. Those are the things we want to dive into. And I think that that's what peels back the layer of Friday the 13th we've always wanted to see. And, you know, it no longer kind of dances around some of the issues. It actually says, like, no, let's make things happen. Let's tell stories.
Right.
Let's bring this camp to life. Let's talk about all these things we've talked about on forums for all these years. Let's implement them in the movies and see what it looks like, because it makes a pretty good goddamn story. And that's
a fan film done by fans to give fans what they want.
But I also think, like, even like from the fan film stuff, I think that this is a movie that I've always wanted to see from the studios.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think really kind of drives me about this, is that it's not just like, it's about making fan films, about doing that. But like, when you're a filmmaker and you got a story burning inside of you, there's no other feeling. And if that story doesn't get out of you, it's painful. I mean, I can't tell you how much it hurts to hold on to that story and know every nook and cranny of what is going to happen, and know that fans have no idea, because I've been walking around with this story in my head for like 4 years. I know everything, like, and it's only gotten better and bigger and like all these different things. So it's, you know, I just think about it like, man, like I'm really in this position where I can make this great story, but I know the realistic cost of this stuff. And I know the trial and tribulation that I got to go through, the things I have to do to prepare myself to get them done. So it's, you know, each one's a challenge, but the only way I can think about it is not to try to think about it all at once. All I can think about is the next step. Right now, for me, what I'm thinking about, how do I get these Blu-rays out?
Yeah.
You know, I think about Never Hike Alone all the time, but I literally took it down off the wall because I couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't look at the thing I could make right now. So I took it down off the wall. I put it in the closet. It's on its own board. And when I'm done with these Blu-rays and I get them all in and I settle this and I, you know, for me, it's like, these Blu-rays are like my way of saying thank you. There's a literal thank you card in every single one. You know,
I think that's really dope, by the way.
You know, I sign every single one by hand because I know I'm not doing this without any of you. And trust me, it hurts me not to send these out. I wanted these out in December. I wanted these out in November. You know what I mean? And it's life is, you can't plan anything right now. Everything you plan is just going to get thrown out the window. And so I've just kind of had to step back and be like, you know,
if people can't understand that, then, you know, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is right now.
Well, I mean, I get it. I get it. And I think some people are unfamiliar with crowdfunding. I think that some people, sometimes our movie makes us seem like we're a Blumhouse when we're really just like a couple of guys.
You definitely have the quality. You have the quality. I'm telling you, you got the quality.
Yes. I mean, it's not like I have a factory. I mean, I'm literally going to be living within boxes when they get here. There's so, like, I've been thinking about, like, how do I rearrange my furniture so I can fit all these boxes? And like, you know, and when they're gone, I'm going to be really happy, because it means
time to buy another tough shed.
Yeah,
stick it outside.
I don't have a yard. I live in an apartment. You know, it's like, but for me, it's like I'm really
okay. We'll put one out on my property. We'll put them in there. I got 5 acres back there,
man. Be going out on eBay? No,
they won't be going out on eBay.
Oh man, that really. When I see them on eBay, I always laugh. I'm like, man, like I had them for like $20 for so long. Like, no one has to pay that much. Have them again. You know what I mean?
No, these are prides of my collection. They say they stay on my glory shelf over there, I guess you'd call it. Like
Yeah,
the
some people are looking for
yeah,
their life savings for them, but
yeah.
but I mean, for me, like I'm really proud of the Never Hike Alone disc that we put together. We put a lot of hard work into it. There's extra
Mhm.
features on it that you haven't seen yet. Like there's things that we made last year that were like, can't wait for people to see it, but they can't
Yeah.
see it yet. You know, like the behind the scenes is a lot of fun. We have some like if you remember the scene in Never Hike in the Snow where it opens up the computer and Kyle McLeod's on the computer because he
Yeah,
was
he's right
watching.
there. Yeah.
We have that episode. It's on the disc.
Nice.
Like,
Nice.
so, there's different things that we'll have the commentary and, we got a lot of great things that, the
Mhm.
artwork by Bill Hunt is amazing. The disc artwork, the cover artwork, we
Yeah, I
go
can't wait to
through,
get it.
we go through a really good company. They make really quality discs, as you've seen. Like these aren't
Mhm.
CDRs. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
get that some people wanted to do that, but I'm very vain with these movies, and I want them to be like when they put them on the shelf next to another Friday the 13th film, the quality is just as good.
Hmm.
We're going through the same companies, and it costs a little bit more, but guess what? You get what you paid for.
And
You're
I've
not
seen
getting
people do it.
cheap, you know?
I've seen people take their Scream Factory Friday the 13th box set, which I have one too. I'm sure you do
I
too.
have one right there.
I've seen them take part 9 out. I've seen them take Freddy or Jason Goes to Hell out and stick in Never Hike Alone. I've seen it.
That's funny. I admittedly did that. You
uh,
don't want to know what I pulled out though.
um, Probably the remake.
Yeah. It sits on
See,
it
man,
sits off to the side.
that remake, that remake is probably one of the best remakes, in my opinion, ever made. Like, I love it. Like,
I every year I try to sit down and watch it. I try. And I go, let it go, Vin. Just let it go and be a fan. Like just enjoy it. And I get like halfway through and I'm like, I can't watch this. I can't watch this. I'm so
so is it
sad.
Marcus Nispel's directing? Because I love his style. I love that. I
It's
love that
no, I think
gritty
that
realism
he
look that he
really
does in that and in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
maybe. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't feel the love. I don't feel the love for Friday the 13th into it. I just feel like I feel like there were things that were just I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. And I don't know why. And I wish it did because there was no one more anticipating it. And when I read the synopsis, I thought it was brilliant. I just think the execution of it, and I think some of the choices that they make along the way,
Mhm.
they're just it's just not me. It's just not the Friday I want. And I maybe one day I'll have that Jason Goes to Hell epiphany. I'll have that I'll be able to have that empathy. But for now, it's like because it's the last Friday the 13th and it's the one that's like leaving the lasting impression on like all new generations, like until there's a new one that can kind of reset the franchise. Like, I don't know, like it's like Jason Goes to Hell. It was like the other ones that came after it helped me get over Jason Goes to Hell. And because nothing's come after that one, I haven't quite got over that movie of it not being what I wanted it to be. And maybe I'm being a little bit of a Star Wars fan here, just being overly
Don't even get me
critical.
started on that.
Maybe I'm just like I've ruined the movie for myself because I'm such a man child and I want the film to be something and it's not that. I'm not just accepting it for what it is. It could totally be that. But in my head, it's like those things that I wanted to see out of Friday the 13th, 2009, I try to implement in the Never Hike Alone stuff to see like it's almost the same, but do you see the difference? Do you see the type of craft that's going into this versus the way that it was executed here? I mean, I could go down to the breakdown of it, but the most simple thing for me to kind of notate is like the music. Like the music in the remake, it doesn't get me at all. And I don't even hear it half the time. It's just drones. It's just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm just like, no, give me strings. Give me
They
orchestra.
weren't actually, from what I understood, they weren't actually allowed to use some of the music from the original
I don't need the
because of
original music. Like we didn't use
the
the original
debates.
music for Never
Yeah.
Hike Alone.
Mm.
But like the way we construct, like 2009 kind of has like a generic late 2000s soundtrack. It feels like the same movie, like any movie could have that soundtrack. Friday the 13th needs a soundtrack like Halloween needs a soundtrack. It needs the quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be Harry Manfredini, but if you can take some of the quality of so Never Hike Alone, we looked at Harry Manfredini. What is Harry Manfredini inspired by the most in Friday the 13th? Definitely Bernard Herrmann's Psycho score. Definitely a lot of the things and techniques that Bernard Herrmann uses as his score. You can hear them repeated in the Friday the 13th theme. okay, let's look at that palette. If he's taking inspiration from Bernard Herrmann, what are other films in Bernard Herrmann's library that Friday the 13th would have sounded like if it came out of that film? And we ended up with Vertigo. And we took Vertigo and felt that that matched the quality of the adventure film that we were trying to create with Never Hike Alone. Crossbred it with Friday the 13th. If it's if Harry Manfredini had remade, Vertigo instead and brought that to it, because it was kind of like this off-kilter Friday the 13th, but it was in that world. It really, and I think that that's where it gets down to me, is that it feels like they didn't treat it like Friday the 13th. They just treated it like another remake. They weren't like, we have the creme de la creme of slashers here. Like, we have like one of the top two that like really kind of own the universe of this. Like, how do we really kind of do this rather than make it feel like it was given the same effort as Prom Night? You know what I mean? Like,
what's funny though is I actually like the Prom Night remake too. I actually like it more than I like the original.
All right, I'll jump into this one for you. I love the remake of Amityville Horror, and I love the Texas Chainsaw remake. I think both of them are really great films.
TCM remake to me is better than the original.
Which one?
The TCM remake. I actually like it more than the original.
I mean, I think I see them. I mean, the original TCM scared me more than anything, and I know Daniel Pearl shot all three, both Texas Chainsaw Massacres and Friday the 13th. I don't appreciate his comments calling Friday the 13th a piece of shit. Like how can you go to a set thinking the original films are a piece of shit? Like, what are you bringing to the set? You know what I mean? You're bringing to the fact that like, fuck this franchise, it's a piece of shit. We're going to make it better. Rather than like, I love this franchise, I want to elevate it. Or
I don't like when any filmmaker badmouths the project that they're basing their product on.
Yeah, I feel like I sort of sense that. I think my Friday the 13th senses like sensed that that was who was making the movie. And that's why there are certain elements to the movie that, didn't appeal to me. And the way that the characters were very crass and unlikable. And it reminded me of the reasons why I don't like Part 7. I don't like Part 7 because the cast is really unlikable. Part 6, everybody's lovable. Part 4, everybody's lovable. Even
I think that's why one of the reasons why I like
Part 2, everyone's lovable.
No. I think one of the reasons that I love the remake so much is, first off, I love the directing style. I just love the way it looks. I love the way that the shots look with the kind of that gritty, grimy look, but it's also like perfectly crisp.
Yeah, it was very 2000. Yeah, it's
and then like for me with Friday the 13th, it's all about the Jason for me. Because as I said, Friday the 13th, I love Friday the 13th, but it's not my favorite horror franchise. That for me, that's Halloween. It's all about the Jason for me, and to me, Derek Mears' Jason was just so fucking good that it was just like Jason. It's what I wanted in my Jason. He was athletic, he was smart, he was, he was scary again. He wasn't just this big Hulk that. And I know there are people out there that love Kane Hodder, but I can't stand his performances. He does nothing but shrug his shoulders and breathe heavy all the time. It's like that's his whole performance.
I really do like Derek's performance, and I think with me it's that like I think I saw a lot of potential there, and I feel like maybe that's my problem, is that like maybe I saw something that no one else saw or something way, but all I saw was like a bunch of wasted potential. I was like, oh my God, like if I had this guy, like the things I would do, like, you know what I mean? And I feel like where they really hit the peak was the axe throw. That was was
perfect. That was perfect.
I wanted to see the entire movie. Like I wanted more of that Jason, and I felt like there were places where they were a little bit too clever. Like I do like the kill where he kills the dude from Mad Men with the machete to the head after like the bear trap, trapped a machete. That was one of the shining moments. Like that was a great moment. The axe throw was a great moment.
I like the sleeping bag over the fire.
See, I felt that like it didn't go far enough. Like I felt like it was really kind of like it was like there was like I want to see her completely on fire. I want to see flames. More than they burnt her. You know what I mean?
When I found out how they did it, I was actually more impressed by taking the They took the practical effects and like a practical fire, and then they married it with a CGI one and a CGI fire. And that's one of the things that I love about the film is that, at least for me, I always notice the CGI in any movie. Every horror movie, CGI blood looks terrible. Can't stand it. Wish it wasn't there. The Friday the 13th remake, I didn't even know it was CGI until they told me.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even know. Any spark, the arrow kill when he shoots her from the shore, and the arrow hit CGI. I didn't know that. I
I
thought it
mean,
was a practical effect. I really did.
there's
You
some
know,
really good
and
stuff. I think it was me. It was like sometimes what they were choosing to look at versus like what they could have been looking at. Like there were things that like I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in like, and then like some of the way the logic kind of tapers off on some things. Like, yeah, he shoots that dude. Like, why was Jason shooting that kid when he wasn't at the camp? And why would he draw attention to himself? Because if he just wants to be left alone, why is he fucking with people? You know what I mean? Like for me, I was like, you're giving me mixed messages. You're giving me two different things. Like pick a lane. And there were like the scenes at like the barn. Like, why is he there during the day? Wouldn't he go at night? And like these are things that the script could have done. They could have easily,
and see that's where I felt that they.
know what I mean? Like I would have wanted to see the sociopath take the boat to the camp, fuck around a little bit, then try to leave, and then get, you know what I mean? Like as he's like, oh, I'm gonna get away from Jason, then shoot him with the bow and arrow.
And see, that's
Little
where I feel
tweak.
they were trying to give us that original kind of Friday the 13th S feel. Because, like, okay, like you got 2 to 3, right?
Yeah.
Like Jason goes from part 2 on the very same night into part 3, changes his hairstyle, changes his clothes. You know,
Yeah.
he's in this barn now. Like, where did we go from here to here? And that's where I think they were kind of like, what they did is they took the best of the first 4 films, kind of put it together, made their own thing. But I and I know you're going to be like, oh my god, but it's my favorite of the franchise. It literally is now. It overshadows part 6 even for me now.
I mean, so I mean,
And
like, and that's the thing. I think that it's. I'm not trying to like. I'm saying for me. I'm saying like
yeah,
we're like
everything is for our own opinion. I mean,
it's my own opinion, and like I'm not trying to like poop on it. I'm just trying to get you to just like, and I understand it because like I'm like let's get back to the positives. Derek is a great Jason.
Mhm.
Wasn't a big fan of the costume for me. I thought he wore it very well. I thought that there were things that like if it like I was like, oh my god, if they just didn't do this, if they didn't put hair on him and they didn't make his like he has a fine head. Like you didn't have to do too much. You could have just given him a little bit. You know what I mean? It was just like there were certain like there I don't know. It just overall I was like, I just want to change a little bit of the tone of this film.
Right.
I just want to push and pull some things because there's something really beautiful here. This brother looking for his lost sister and like the whole connection with his mother. I just felt like the important things that make it Friday the 13th were a little loosey goosey, like the opening of the film. Young Jason finds his mother's head, but he died in 1957 and now it's 1980 and he's still a little boy. How's this working? Like I thought you were switching this stuff around. And like I thought you were figuring this out. You're not clarifying. You're actually making it more confused. Like there were just things that kind of got me that like that. Like,
They pulled a
Chewie gets
Texas chainsaw, putting cell phones in where there were no cell phones at the time.
yeah, I mean that's funny. Well, I mean, the problem is that with I can't remember. I actually talked to Adam Marcus about that because Adam Marcus wrote that movie.
Mhm.
And he was like, yeah, that wasn't in the script. He's like, it was supposed to take place in the 90s. Like, it's supposed to like actually would have made sense. You would have grown up around 18 around like
Mhm.
1992 or something like that. And the producers just basically said screw it and put cell phones in the movie,
Yeah,
and then made all like changes and do your
it's
thing
still a fun
because
movie.
yeah, I mean I like that it picks up after the original. That's pretty cool. I thought that was a really cool take
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
I actually only have 2 actual questions left. We've gone over so much stuff that I actually only have 2 other questions left for you. One, a friend of mine wanted to know, when you're we were and we I could have segued into it a few minutes ago because we were talking about it, but when you're not filmmaking, when you're not doing, production, when you're not doing manufacturing, all that, when you're not working in film, what is it you like to do? What do you like to do that's just you for fun, hobbies, whatever?
Love snowboarding. I love outdoors. I love playing baseball.
Mhm.
I love being in the outdoors. I love being in the water. I love going for swims, hikes. But yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that like what I love to do and get away is go to like Mammoth Mountain or some big ass mountain after a big snowstorm and just ride powder and spend time just like riding all day with my friends, and then like being super sore at the end of the day and going back to a cabin, having a bunch of drinks and like having good times. Those are like the vacations I really love. And
you wouldn't know to look at me, but I'm the same way. I love that too.
cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, snowboarding is like, I love it. And I'm a speed demon too. So I love flying down the mountain and like finding empty trails and like, trying to
I
hit
haven't
50 miles.
snowboarded in 10 years, but I love it. No, 15 years, but I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, I let myself go after college.
Well, I was hoping to get like after Never Hiking the Snow, my big thing was like after Never Hiking the Snow is done and it's like we're in post and they're putting it together, first thing I'm doing is I'm going snowboarding. And then I went snowboarding for a day and then COVID hit. And when I came back from where I was, there was no more snowboarding. So I
Have
haven't
you
been
ever
since
gone in
last.
Colorado? Have you ever been in Colorado to snowboard?
Never been to Colorado. I've done California, and then I grew up in New England, so I used to snowboard all the time in New England. So it was all icy and crap. But my goal is to like go to Colorado, Wyoming, Canada. I want to go to the Alps. Like I want to snowboard everywhere.
I'm from Denver. I'm from Denver. I've also lived in Mexico for a long time. I've lived in Colorado. I've lived in Europe. I actually learned to snowboard in Europe.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I was a military brat, so but you will never find better skiing and snowboarding than right around Denver, Colorado. Golden, all those areas up there are just absolutely like so good. They're so much fun.
I got a brother who lives in Arizona. My other brother lives in out east. But we try to get together. And I think that they went to Colorado without me one year, so I think they owe me a trip. So we got to get it back out there. But I want to experience. That's what I want to spend some time doing. You'll probably see me out in the mountain in the next couple of weeks.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, they haven't even opened them up here right now. We got the weather for it, but everything COVID has New Mexico completely closed down. We're still completely closed, and it's really getting annoying. But anyways, the last question that I wanted to ask you officially on my question board here: if you did have the carte blanche to get anybody you wanted in your movies, anybody at all, like you had unlimited fundage for actors or whatever, who is it you're wanting in these films now? And that's not a shot at anybody. I love that you got Tom Mathis. I love that you got Rick. I love these guys. They're all so great. But for Friday the 13th, if you could get anybody, even anybody at all, that's
Steele. I would love to bring Trish back into the fold. I'd love to bring Jen back into the fold. I had a really good, really Jennifer Cook, right? That's her name. I always forget, but I think it's Jennifer Cook who played. I had a really good storyline for her and Tommy, and then Tom Matthews told me that she doesn't do acting anymore and she doesn't want anything to do with Friday the 13th. So I kind of had to rewrite the whole thing, and so that's when the loner Tommy really came from. I mean, the loner Tommy was always there, but there was an element with Megan that carried over, which was really nice. We were going to try to resolve that track. I'd really want to work with them. I'd love to work with Kane and CJ and some of this, some of the Jasons that are still around. Derek, we almost got to work with Douglas Tate, who was one of the Jasons in Freddy versus Jason. He walks out at the end of the film with Freddy's head, who's become a good friend of mine. And unfortunately, scheduling conflicts didn't get to work with him. I mean, I pulled Tracy Savage into the Ghost Cut. I got Adam Marcus, Ron Sloan. Through the 13 Fanboy Project, I got to work with a lot of people like Deb Voorhees and stuff like that. Larry Zerner. I think that there's the right type of cameo in a lot of these films if they're cast right, put in the thing where they're not standing out, but they're there, and if you know who they are, like it would be a good moment. I think there's a lot of people. I'd love to pull a lot of like the fun alumni who have, I think more than anyone, the ones that have put the feet to the ground to keep the franchise alive, the ones who are at the conventions returning and saying, and keeping the fandom alive.
That's one prop I give to Kane Hodder is he loves this franchise and he does push it all the time.
That's why, I mean, like, though, like I said, his films aren't the greatest from as far as like where they fall in my ranking, but I still love them. They're still Friday the 13th. And, no matter how you feel about them, like yeah, the way he championed the franchise, I mean, he kept it relevant.
Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on them now. I used to be 75-25, but now I'm 50-50. Uh,
Maybe one day I'll get there with 2009.
I just can't with Jason Goes to Hell though, man. I just can't. I think that to me, that what's his name? Adam Marcus. Yeah, I have no hate against him or anything, but he was
He's
pulling that one out of his butt as he went along.
no,
And
I
then the way
mean,
they cut out so much stuff that was relevant to
so
the story.
Adam is a fantastic individual. He's a really good guy. I'm glad I got to know him. Fantastic filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Very inspirational. He's got a documentary coming out called The Dark Heart of Jason Voorhees, the true story of Jason Goes to Hell. He told me his original plot
Mm-hmm.
for the movie, and I'm telling you, it would have been amazing. The
The thing with
fact we missed
Creighton
out
Duke
on
getting, like
no
Creighton
more.
Duke's girlfriend getting killed and all that, or
There was another part, and I hope he talks about that because when he told me this, I was like, "That's the movie I wanted to see," and he couldn't make that happen, and he was sent in another direction, and then things kind of got taken out of his control. And I think when people see this this documentary, it's going to be a cool story about like how a film like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell is allowed to be made. At the end of the day, like it was his first film. He was 23.
no.
You know what I mean? Like, so they
And it's a
definitely
pretty big
like,
responsibility to put on a 23-year-old.
and that's part of the story. And so like I was lucky enough to be a part of the I got interviewed for it, and I'm blunt. I'm as blunt with like as I am with you about 2009. I mean, with
No.
Adam, I think Adam stepped out of the room, but he did later see my interview, and I was brutal. I was brutal. I said, and I caveated it, and I was just basically like, listen, like these are the views of an angry 9-year-old boy. That's all I can tell you is that I was, I was 10 years old when it came out and when I got to see it. And these are the views of a 10-year-old boy of what I felt. And the way the adult version of me feels is much different. I was like, but I understand why so many people are angry. And this is why people are angry. And then I tried to deconstruct it and be like, this is what I learned. This is what I learned about holding on to a grudge about this film. And when I learned to let it go and actually enjoy it, I have a soft spot for it. And then, and that's why like I'm trying to do that with 2009 and I can't quite get there yet, but maybe one day.
I know that my friends that are watching are wondering why I'm not arguing. It's because you guys all know my opinions. This is his time for his opinions.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I'm not trying to poop on it. I mean, me and Cody Leach had a really great conversation about it at one point. Yeah, it's just No, I get it.
It's funny because the fact that the Friday the 13th remake is actually my favorite remake of all time, but the Halloween remake and the subsequent sequel to the Halloween remake, which is my favorite franchise, I cannot stand. For basically all the reasons you don't like the Friday the 13th remake, and also because I feel like there was absolutely no respect for the source material at all. And then in the second one, especially when Rob Zombie came along and literally, you can find it on the internet, said, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what Halloween fans think. Fuck Halloween fans. I'm making what I want to make. And that, I was like, okay, yeah, I hope you die right
Bold
now.
move, Cotton. Let's see if this pays off.
I hope you die right now. I really hope you die. Like, really, just die.
Oh no, you can't take it there.
No.
I mean, it's
I want to. I love him for all his other movies. I like his other stuff, but for Halloween, it's like
I know. I feel you. I feel you. I understand the feeling. It's that's fandom for you. We love these characters so much. It feels like when people treat them the way we don't want them to be treated, or we feel like they're being mistreated, it's like our own. It's like a brother. You know what I mean? It's like your best friend. You're like, how dare you do that to my best friend? You know what I mean? You're like, why? You can't, like when they blew up Jason. Oh my god! You blew up my heart. Type thing. Like I died that day. I was just like dead for a day. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, I can't believe they fucking blew him up. Like, I know he comes back, but that was so traumatizing for a 10-year-old.
And up to him getting blown up was the best part of the movie.
Oh my god. And when I went back and watched it years later, when I was trying to start to go down thing. The opening of the movie is like, it's bar none classic Friday.
It is. It's
The
really good.
music, the timing. I'm not a huge fan of that look, but
It's grown
aesthetically,
on me over the years. The look of that movie has grown on me, like the Jason look.
I'm really picky. I mean, you see how Ghost Jason looks like, you know,
I want to ask you too. What made you do the when you took the mask off? What made you go with that particular? It's not really 7. It's not really 6. It's not really 5.
it's kind of
It's
amount.
or
It's
not
like
5. 8. I mean, it's all. It's but it's. I don't want to use the word glossy, but it was very. What do I want to look for here? It was clean. It was sharp. It looked good. He didn't look soggy like he does in age.
Yeah, no, he's not like melting. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
kind of still there. I think part of it was I didn't have the money for a custom hood, so I couldn't do super damage. I just had to buy a
Hmm.
CFX deformed hood, and then we kind of
Hmm.
cast it around that. And with the face, we just wanted his face to be torn apart type thing, but we wanted it to look good because it's very easy for Jason to look goofy. And what we went with was
Muppety.
something that was akin to, because I mean, obviously when you see his full face in part 5, it's goofy as hell. Part 7 is kind of goofy looking, but part 6, very scary looking, and they don't
Mhm.
show it a lot. They show it in
Yeah.
that one shot where like the shadows are across the face and you can kind of see the highlights. And you're like, that's the scariest face I've ever seen because your mind's filling a bunch of things in for you. So we wanted to create a face that you could see partially and then let your mind fill in some other things and fill in some cracks. And the goal with Never Hike Again is that Jason is going to go through like maybe he's going to go through one more transformation as far as like the way our suit and things feel. Like we're going to try to raise enough money this next round to go with original hands and original head that's all designed by Bill Hunt. So it will be based on the current Ghost Jasons there, but that smooth skin, you're going to start to see some of the texture. You're going to see some of the old damage. Like it's going to be a little bit, there will be no hair, but you'll see it won't be the smooth, perfect skin. We'll kind of sneak it in there and be like, sorry for the continuity error, but for the next 3 films, he's going to look as if we had the money for what they had in 2009.
Right.
But we're going to show you how to, I think it has to go with like the way it fits, the way it looks, the silhouette of the body, like all that stuff is so important. I feel like it got overlooked a lot. Starting in part 9 too, like I felt like, I don't know, that suit really didn't complement him well. It wasn't like part 6 where like, other than the gloves, like part 6 is almost perfect. And so like, even part 8 to a certain degree, like there are elements like the face that don't work. But the way that he's put together in that film is like, I really like the way that Jason looks. And, it has to do with the untucked shirt. It has to do with the color structures that you use. And like Jason Goes to Hell, he was in a light blue, like shirt and pants with a Santa belt buckle that had his shirt
Hmm.
tucked in. And, he had this amazing bodysuit on, but we only saw pieces of it. So why did
Right.
you build that big bodysuit if all you're going to see is a couple of things and you're not even going to use
Yeah.
it for
The
most of the movie?
costume design was not great in that movie.
Yeah, like Jason X, same thing. Like Jason X is kind of goofy in that. That's when they introduced the jacket. Freddy versus Jason, they went to the Frankenstein route, very dopey. Like it's a very dopey look. And so like I I was like, I don't mind the jacket, but that's a hobo jacket. And then in
Mhm.
2009, it became like the rad trench coat. And he was just like, it was really kind of like, I don't know, there was something about like, I was like, I just want to scale it back a little bit. And that's how
Mhm.
Ghost Jason came to form. It was, that green jacket, the brown pants, that really feels like Ted Whitey. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's got but now the jacket kind of feels like a green
It's
Sears
stuff he
work
just
shirt.
found laying around somewhere or on
Yeah,
somebody's
and there's a
clothesline
story.
or
And we actually have a
but
story about how he finds this costume, which we want to tell too, because he's Ghost Jason is not like so much a continuation where like, oh, you'd have the same mask and all these things. It's following logic. The masks were
Mhm.
destroyed, his clothes were destroyed. He had to rebuild himself, and this is the new Jason. This is how he's rebuilt himself with what he could find and put together. And there's a story that goes into it. We'd love to tell that one day too.
Yeah, I wanted that ghost hockey mask so bad, but there were none left when I went to go.
I
I
know they
wanted it.
go fast.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we're still making them. We still got 20 left.
Well, if you
Another
do,
10.
if you sell them again, I'll put in for one.
I'll see. Those guys are burnt out. They're trying to do a bunch of other things too. They're really like we've been really kind of cutting the cost on them. But now that we're not making a movie, we might be able to sell a couple here and there. But maybe we'll keep it on the down low. We'll see. Don't tell
Well, I
anybody
know a
if you.
guy that does really good masks, and he sells them for about 70, $80 a piece.
Yeah, no, there's a couple of great
You
repros
know,
there.
there's some really nice ones.
Yeah, the only difference that what we try to promote with our mask is like when we're making our mask, you're getting the mask from the original mold.
Right.
The original design, the original everything is there. We're making it the same exact way, slush casting it, the same thickness. You're not getting an 80.85 millimeter like poly bendable mask.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting like a thick ass like thing you could bash someone's head in with. It's
Right.
we've played with some of the materials and things like that to make it more durable over the years, but that's what we want to give. Like it has the weight, and it has the weight of the mask that we wear on set because that's really important to us. I didn't want a cheap, flimsy like repro being the thing that stands out. I wanted it to feel like an actual mask that somebody would wear out on the ice. And so that was the goal with it. And that's why it kind of has the presence that it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, myself as, a fan and a collector, that's the one mask I don't have is I don't have an autographed Jason mask.
Oh,
I have
really?
I have a cheap Jason mask, but not a good one. I've got an autographed, Halloween mask, things like that. But I want to get an autographed Jason mask, and I want it to be a nice one. I want a couple people's autographs on them. So if I get the one I want, maybe I'll send it to you, have you sign it too, and you can send it back. You better send it back.
Keeping it signed. No, definitely. I mean, I do that stuff all the time.
For my contests, actually, for when I reach certain milestones, like when I reached 500 and 1,000, my contests were actually real autograph masks, certificates, everything, And like I found one for my 1,000, which was so cool. It was I can't remember what it's called right now, but it was a black and silver one, and it was signed by 3 different Jasons.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually, I got such a good deal on it, and I was so stoked that I was able to get that for somebody.
That's awesome.
So, guys, is there anybody out there that has any questions for Mr. Disanti that's still left? I know this interview's gone a lot longer than my last one did.
Well, anytime you get me talking, we're here for hours.
Hey, I'm fine with that, man. I'm fine with that at all. I like I said, no time limit. I just want to have some fun. And
yeah, I mean, I'll take a couple of questions, and then I'll probably get going just because I'll probably have to go to the bathroom a little bit, make some dinner, and settle in and watch the rest of Hannibal season 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's only 9:00 where you're at, so. Anybody got any questions? One person, we got a $25 question.
Wow.
Said, were you in The Sopranos? You look like somebody who was in Johnny Sack's crew.
No, I wish. I am Italian, and I did grow up watching The Sopranos.
It's my favorite series.
Although my favorite.
Yeah.
He's just walking around. Always had that face. I love that guy. I was like, he's such a cartoon. I was like, I know people like that.
Okay, I know that there was some questions. Okay, yes, you did play the Shape in a Halloween film, yes.
Yeah, I played it in 3 films. The Spirit of Haddonfield, which was directed by Rene Rivas. The Face of Michael Myers, which was directed by Stephen Wolfe. And then most recently, Happy Halloween, which is directed by Jimmy Champagne and Cortland Gordon.
And then we have a question, when do the Blu-rays start? I know that this person came in late, so you didn't get it. Probably
in case anybody missed it, we're waiting on the Blu-rays to finish the manufacturer. As soon as they land, we're going to send an update to the Indiegogo, letting everybody know that they've landed. And by the time you get that update, we're probably going to have already stuff boxed up and ready to ship. So yeah, I mean, we got 2 campaigns to fulfill. We got 2,500 discs that need to go out. They look beautiful. We finished the design. The design's really cool. Designed by Bill Hunt. Lots of special features, lots of different languages, behind the scenes, special feature scenes. We're putting bonus material on there. We're putting trailers from some other films. We're going to put some footage from some other films, footage from Jason Rising, footage from Happy Halloween. We're going to put some of the footage on there. So you're going to get a disc that's jam-packed with stuff. Pathosis is going to be on it, our original short. We know that Never Hike in the Snow was short, so we wanted to make sure that this disc is jam-packed with as much material as possible so you feel like you've got your money's worth for the package.
The Soulless Trenchcoat would like to know, is there any smaller horror films or franchises that you would like to make a fan film for, if any?
Um, a fan film for. Actually, one thing I would love to, if I had to make my own fan film of it, I would love to make um a fan film based on the original story of First Blood, the original Rambo
The,
story. That's in
okay,
the book.
nice.
Yeah, I would
Mhm.
love to do the book version because I think it's really poetic. And I honestly think that if I lived in the right town and I had the right cast around me at all times, I could literally make the film a fan film chapter by chapter for very little money.
Nice.
The only thing that would cost me money was once when we get to like the police station stuff. But up into that, I think I could put together a pretty cool story and then maybe convince a local police station to like let me shoot there. But I can't do that in Los Angeles. I got to move somewhere else.
Yeah, I actually am shooting. I'm actually going to be shooting in a local sheriff's department building. It's their old building that they're not using anymore. They use for storage now. So I
Cool.
know the lady who works at the sheriff's office. She's going to let me do it.
Well, hook it up. Maybe I'll go shoot this thing and maybe I'll go to Mexico for a little while.
Hey, give me a call.
And we'll reset this one. We'll take it out of the winter and bring it into the desert.
Hey, we get winter here too. We had snow the other day.
Oh, cool. In
Uh,
Albuquerque?
oh yeah, we get good. We get pretty heavy snow here sometimes. This winter's been mild. Last winter we had a big snow. We had a lot. In fact, we had the most snow in over 100 years.
Oh wow. Yeah,
But
I was in Ruidoso last January, so I got a little bit of it.
yeah, the let's see. They're going kind of little. Jay Super Awesome wanted to know: would you be interested in creating your own slasher villain for a movie? Which
I mean,
was
if
one
it
of my questions originally, but we kind of talked about that a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I think that if it ever came to me, I think that Jason's really kind of like my guy when it comes to that. But if the thought ever comes along, sure. I mean, it just that's not in my brain right now. But I would love to make my own slasher villain. Trust me, we all want to. But I think until I get Jason out of my head, I'm not going to have room for it.
Okay. Prep for It, which is a kind of an outdoor channel that follows me. He says, I love Never Hike Alone. To be honest, I found the film because I do hike alone. I was looking up information about hiking, and he found your film. He said, have you had other people stumble on the movie like that?
Yeah. So what I found out in reverse is that "Never Hike Alone" is really a catchphrase for like hike with your dog. It's a
Oh,
synonymous logo that's like "Never Hike Alone," and it's like a picture of a dog. And so like it made me go, man, I wish I made this movie with Andrew and a dog. I was just like, ah, that would have been great. And if I ever had to, if the studios came to me, they're like, Vinny, screw your original idea for like the other thing. We want to make Never Hike Alone, but we want to make it a big blockbuster feature. What would you do? The only thing I would change is I would give him a dog. And I would do the same story with a dog and extra scenes at the end. We'd have like a full conclusion, but that's what I would change. So that's really funny. And the other way that people found me by accident was when the first Never Hike Alone trailer came out. Somebody took my footage and they cut it with the 2009 trailer and released it as Friday the 13th trailer 2017. And everybody thought it was the real trailer. Everybody thought it was the real film, and it got millions of views, and I got no credit for it.
don't you hate that, man? I don't know how many times I've clicked on the new whatever trailer, and I'm like, oh really? Oh wait, don't worry, it's awesome. They're putting it out, and it's a fan made. I'm like, really? Come on.
You like think about it like, hey, I never really checked up on that thing. Did it ever come out yet? Oh, there it
Yeah,
is. Oh, it's a fake.
yeah. Let's see. 80s horror fan. His favorite is the New Blood. He's got lots of shit for it. He gets a lot of, not like swag, but he gets shit for liking that
Yeah,
movie. What's your opinion? And also, can you get him Tina Lar Park Lincoln's number?
I can't.
I doubt he can get you
Actually,
the number.
I did get to work with Laura Park Lincoln. She's one of the stars of 13 Fanboys. She's lovely. Got to help her out with some of the stunts in some of her scenes. So she's great. Part 7, for me, it's where it falls, where it's lackluster is some of the characters. And I do love Bad News Cruise. I'm a big Weekend at Bernie's fan, and I did meet Terry Kaiser, and he was super nice to me. We sat and talked for a little while when I was at his booth, and he was gracious enough to sign my book, and we talked Friday the 13th and life for a little while. So like there were some bright spots in that movie. I do like the look of Jason. I think Jason looks very intimidating. The sad part of the story is that it didn't get the it didn't really get the gore that it needed, and it didn't have the ending that it deserved. I think that's really where it falls down for me, is that the ending.
Me too. Same thing.
I could literally, like, I'll tell you what, one day maybe I will just do a cut of Friday the 13th Part 7, and what I'll do is we'll just dissolve to them on the dock to the next morning, and the house blew up and it flung Jason back into the lake. We don't have to do any of the dad stuff, and that would just make it like that ending would work for me. Like, I'd be happy with that. I don't need normal dad popping out of the thing. Like, I'd rather go with that. You know, maybe if he had like skeletal dad coming out and if it looked really good, maybe that works. But then it asked the question, they left his dad, left her dad.
They never found the father. What? You know?
Like, it's just, it makes you think like, man, these cops in Friday the 13th suck. They never find anybody that goes into the lake.
They're worse than the cops in Halloween 5.
Yeah, right. So, you know, it never really made sense to me. But I mean, I don't know. Like, Lara Parker Lincoln's a great actress. She did a really great job in that movie. The co-lead is good. Bad News Cruise is good. It's just those kids were. I don't know. It was just a sillier story. Like, the fighting couple was kind of like meh. There were a lot of fighting couples, and it was really hard to watch.
I remember watching an interview with John Carl
Buechler.
I can't say it now, Buechler. Okay. And he said that he still has the original cut. And so when they did the Scream Factory, that he had all the uncut, you know, shots of all the gore and all that still. So when they did the Scream Factory set right after he died, I was really hoping that we would get that, but we didn't. And
yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think that stuff has always been on there. They just never had like the real. It was the work print. They don't have the final print, which is much different. So that's why it only has that VHS quality. Same thing with the Part 2 kills that they showed, which are hilarious, by the way. I realized that like they were like, oh, we found all like the things to Part 2 and like all the additional gore footage. And when you watch it, they didn't cut it out for the gore. They cut it out for the performances, because everybody dies so funny. And so many weird things happen. Like, you see like the pole get caught, and like everybody makes a weird face. Like, it literally takes the sheriff, I think, like 30 seconds to fall out of frame. He just keeps falling slowly. And he never changes his face. It's like, dude, this is silly.
I thought they were going to cut those back in. I misunderstood when I read it. I thought they were going to cut it back into the film, but it was just, you know, and I guess I'm kind of glad they didn't, because it would have been, but there are times where they do that in films and it doesn't bother me. They put that disclaimer up at the beginning saying, you know, these scenes aren't as high quality as this because it's, you know, and that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in some cuts and stuff like that, but you
know, it looks like I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
One of the biggest crimes of all time is how much, you know, of the uncut footage we would have loved to have seen back in the Friday the 13th films, but they don't keep the footage from those films, and they threw them all out and think that no one ever wanted to see them. So it's a crime that all these movies, that what they could have been, will never be realized, because the MPAA won, and that was the way they did things back then. So it's a real crime. You know, the alternate Part 3 ending. That's the one I've always wanted to see.
Yeah, they really hurt. They really hurt a lot of films, including, in my opinion, Nightmare on Elm Street 5. There was so much more that was involved in that film that they could have put out. The last question it looks like we have is: when Never Hike Alone, or when Never Hike Again is eventually released, will Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow be available again for those who missed out?
Yes. Yeah, we'll always do that. We'll kind of keep it going, and then eventually the plan is like what we did with Ghost Cut. That was supposed to be like an example. It cuts together into one movie.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was cool, because I sometimes I'll just watch, if I've got like, I like to watch Never Hike Alone on my lunch break, because I got about an hour, so I watch just the movie and then go back to work.
I'm gonna market that perfect lunch break film.
There you go. That was a question by my brother, actually, the horror man, and you know, he is a huge media collector, and he did miss out on Never Hike Alone, and I didn't know he had missed out, and I didn't buy him a copy, and then we're gone. So.
Well, we just did another run of them, and in that run we'll have extras. So We'll announce that once we get through. Everybody's fulfilled. I'll say, hey, I got 100 extra Blu-rays. I got both second and third editions that are going to be coming. We'll do a second edition of Never Hike in the Snow. Like the way we do it is we do the first edition. That's the one that's the collector's item, and then the other ones are just alternate covers, same guts, all that stuff. It's just different artwork, and because we have so much great artwork done for our films, so we'll do one with the modern look, which is usually our version 3, and we'll do one with the more animated look in a way, which is like we did with like the one you had. You have the blue one with the animated logo.
Right.
We did that great blue logo at the beginning of Never Hike in the Snow before we went to the modern look. So we'll do a case like that as well.
And this one's 2 discs. This one's 1 disc, but
yeah. So one came with Blu-ray DVD, and then it was just the cost on that was insane. And then I realized, I'm like, how many people really have DVD players? So
see, I like that because a lot of people don't have the Blu-ray things for their laptops or whatever, or traveling. Like, I don't even know if there is a portable Blu-ray player yet.
Well, I think there are, but instead of that, that's why we have the digital download. The digital download, so you can download it to
YouTube.
your iPad, or YouTube, on YouTube. I mean, for the digital, it's like you get that high quality, 1080p, not streaming.
I try to get every edition that comes out. I love this stuff, man. It's great.
Yeah, no. In fact, hang on. Let me go. I'll be right back.
Okay. Brandon, if you watch the Ghost Cut, you can actually watch Never Hike in the Snow. The original short that he did, I can't remember what it was. If you actually had a name for that, the original piece.
Which one?
And the piece that's between on your Ghost Cut, you have the Never Hike. You have the guys there at the lake that were, I don't remember if there was a name for that part.
The Disappear at the beginning.
At the very beginning.
Yeah, that's the Disappear music video.
Okay.
And that will be on the Never Hike in the Snow DVD. Blu-ray.
Yeah, I was answering a question or a thing for Brandon. They have that all the way through. That whole Ghost Cut. You can find it on YouTube. Has like the whole story so far on it, and it's pretty cool.
With additional stuff like a voiceover from Tom Matthews, special guest appearance by Tracy Savage, Adam Marcus, Ron Sloan, Deb Voorhees, and Cindy Kanai, who's Vinny Guastafar's wife. We have a new special bonus scene with Vinny Guastafar in it that explains a little bit more about what the cops found when they got back to Crystal Lake. And then, Never Hike Alone pretty much plays as is, but, Never Hike in the Snow and Disappear really see some like kind of punch ups, some things like that. We fixed a couple of things too. And then also for people, these are the new cards.
Oh, nice. That's going to be a Never Hike in the Snow, huh?
Yeah, these will be in the Never Hike in the Snow. So there's the thank you. Sick. And they'll be signed and they'll be individually hand numbered.
Super awesome, man. So
we're going to, I got my stack of those things. I sat down, I signed them all, and they're waiting to be fed into Blu-rays. So as soon as they get the call and they tell me that they're going into production, I'm going to take all of the cards. I'm going to bring them down. They're going to insert them in for me. And, and then once they get here, it's just going to be the CNC Blu-ray factory. We're just going to be pumping. We're going to, instead of pumping out the jams, we're going to be pumping up the Blu-rays for weekends after weekends. And then, and then after that, it's a great accomplishment. We'll take another breath. We'll finish up Ghost Chicken, and then we'll start looking at possibly putting the Ghost Cut on a Blu-ray and using that as the start to the next edition of crowdfunding. We'll probably do, I think for the next film, we'll probably do 3 crowdfunding campaigns. One for the Ghost Cut, one for Never Hike Again, and then probably a wrap up afterwards to be like, okay, if you missed the first time, now's your final chance to get it, to help with the Blu-ray sales. And then that will also help us kind of keep the ball rolling. I think we'll kind of keep that up because now we realize what the true cost of all this stuff is. And we got to make sure that all of our bases are covered, or else I'm going to be living on the street.
When we get off the air, just give me your PayPal and I'll just give you my money. Okay.
No, keep it. Let's wait for the Blu-rays. In the meantime, I'm just working sets and I'm paying my rent.
Well, guys, if that's all the questions we have, I know Vince would like to go and get something to eat and go to the bathroom.
I gotta get some food.
So, Vince, I want to thank you so much. This has been a big thing for me to have you on. I've been looking forward to it ever since I saw Never Hike Alone, and I knew I was doing this YouTube thing, and I had to get you, and I wanted to get you on. So, thank you so much for joining me. It was an extreme pleasure for me.
Oh, no, this was a great time. I'm happy to sit down and have this conversation, and thank you for all the support. You've been there since the beginning. I recognized, your name stands out, so I always remembered it. But I remember you contacting me early and being a fan, and being one of the first people to champion Never Hike Alone. And I appreciate you going out and telling more people about it and getting people revved out about it and introducing me to your fan base. So yeah, we're just trying to spread the word and make more quality Friday the 13th, movies. And hopefully, people check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/WompStompFilms, WOMPSTOMPFILMS. We got a ton of content up there now. We put a bunch of stuff, some old short films with some stop motion Friday the 13th stuff. We got Pathosis up there, our first original short. Imagine is on there, my other original short. Pathosis is
Which is
directed
dope,
by
by the way. You got to see it.
Pathosis is directed by a good friend of mine, Austin Bonang. My first ever short ever, The Red Room, is on there. And lots of other fun stuff, behind the scenes material, more stuff we'll be posting over the next couple of months. Obviously, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can email us at wompstompfilms@gmail.com if you have a question. If you did order the Blu-ray, you got to change your address. Please email us so we don't send the Blu-ray to the wrong address. Lots of fun stuff. But yeah, we're looking forward to telling more stories, making more movies, and helping filmmakers get their stuff funded. This year, like I said, keep an eye out for Jason Rising, which is a Friday the 13th film that I'm helping produce and write. It's directed by a good friend of mine, James Sweet. If you haven't seen the previews for that, that's on YouTube at the Red Crow Films YouTube page. Him, James Sweet, Carl Winery, both guys running that show. Really great guys, really cool story. If you like part 4, final chapter, Jason, you're really going to love this. You're also going to get to see, and it's been in the trailers, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but you'll actually see a headless Pamela corpse that will run around and kill people. So this is fun. I love this film. I helped write part of it. I kind of helped them kind of formulate the bigger picture of it, and James has really run with the ball on it. And then we have Dylan's New Nightmare for all you Nightmare on Elm Street fans out there. It's bringing back Nico Hughes to reprise his role as Dylan Porter. 20 years after the events of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Dylan, all growing up, still dealing with the demon Freddy,
Nice.
and continuing that storyline. So we get a lot of really cool stuff, and that's being directed by a good friend of ours, Cecil Laird, out of The Horror Show, based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be working with Renee Rivas, who shot Spirit of Haddonfield. He just released a film called The Tent. Also working with Renee on a new project called Judy. We'll be shooting this later winter and spring, hopefully releasing that next year. And of course, later this year, I believe somewhere around Halloween time, you're going to get to see 13 Fanboy, which is directed by Friday the 13th Part 5's Deborah Voorhees. If you don't know about it, definitely go check it out. There's a lot of Friday the 13th alumni in it. Kane Hodder, CJ Graham is in it. I'm in it. Ron Sloan's in it. Deb's in it. And just Judy Ronson, Tracy Savage, and it's gonna be pretty amazing. Also, Andrew Lady's in it. He plays the lead actress's boyfriend, played by Haley Greenbauer. So it's the top of the list on that is that we have Dee Wallace as the main star of it. So it's really cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a really cool film, and it's about a fanatic fan who hunts and downs and kills, horror film people because they don't love him enough, or her. You don't know who it's going to be. So it's a really cool film. Deb did a lot of work. She shot it all in New Mexico with an indie film, budget and crew. A lot of the people who worked on that film also worked on Never Hike Alone. That's how I met Nora Hewitt, our effects artist. She was working on 13 Fanboy, and she came and helped us out with Disappear and Never Hike in the Snow. So yeah, so there's lots of projects coming out this year. I know we don't have much Never Hike Alone stuff that we're doing this year, but there is a lot of great content coming out that we're a part of and we're really proud of. And like I said, keep an eye out for Ghost Chicken, which hopefully we'll have done by the end of the year. And then next year we can step back into the Never Hike Alone world and, create another great Friday the 13th fan film, adaptation, and, do some other great things too, and keep the ball rolling and keep making films.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by Ghost Chicken. I got to see this.
Yeah, it's about a vegan restaurant that's haunted by the ghost of the chicken. So it's fun. It's animated. It's a comedy. Had a lot of fun with it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've been cutting it and putting the voices in and doing some stuff. So we got a lot of work still left to do on it, but when it's all said and done, I think people are going to see that Womp Films has a lot of versatility.
That's awesome, man. That is so great. I'm glad you guys got a lot going on, and we can't wait to watch it. We can't wait to see it. And once again, man, we really appreciate you coming on. And for everybody out there, I hope you all enjoyed it. You guys have a great night, and peace out.
Thanks for watching.